Hey guys, Video Nurp here. Video Nurp here. What am I talking about? Welcome to an interesting video. So, it's the end of the year. As you guys can see, I've already, at the time I'm recording this, which is the 22nd of December, I have my compilation up. So while I was editing that, I kind of did a lot of recollection on each of the games I streamed. So I just decided I want to do a kind of a appetizer video where I talk about each game I've played this year on stream. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And at the end of the video, I will crown my game of the year. And yeah, so how this is gonna work is I'm gonna include games I've streamed this year. So that would be something like Tears of the Kingdom, you know. But there is a few games that I've played that I've really enjoyed off stream, so I won't be discussing those. For example, the big one is Lethal Company. I've done a lot of playing on that game, but I haven't streamed it, so yeah, unfortunate. Um, and the criteria for this, it's just kind of like, I don't know, made up criteria, I guess. Because I don't want to include games like, I don't know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and like Sons of the Forest that I streamed like once, and same with Sekiro. I mean, Sekiro is different because that like came out a couple years ago. And also, if I included Sekiro, that that would be number one. So I don't know. I think we're gonna leave out Sons of the Forest and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just because I did like one stream of those, and like I don't feel like I have good talking points on them. So yeah, I don't know how long this video is gonna be. I don't want to do much editing on this because again, I want this to be like sort of a podcast kind of thing, kind of supplementary to my big compilation coming out on New Year's Day. Alrighty, so I guess, yeah, I guess let's get started. So. Oh yeah, also, I will not be including like FGO, and like games that came out like a year before this, except for Yakuza. I don't know. I don't know. How would I describe my criteria? I'm gonna be talking about the games I've Let's Played, I guess. There you go. Sorry, I'm kind of winging it. We're kind of winging it. I just thought of this idea. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about the games we've Let's Played, and we're gonna be going from there. Alrighty, so let's start off with Tales of Arise. Oh man. Also, just a spoiler warning for all the games I'm gonna be talking about. Um, I should have said this earlier. But yeah, I'm gonna be going in depth on spoilers because I want to talk about what I really enjoyed and really disliked about these games. Because I do a lot of thinking on stuff post, like when I beat it. So, and in order to like get across like what I liked about some games, there's just I'm just gonna have to include spoilers. So just spoiler warning for all the games I'm talking about, obviously. So yeah, I think that about covers everything I wanted to cover here at the start here. Sorry. Sorry, this is kind of scatterbrained a little bit. I don't have like a script or anything. I just kind of wanted to focus on talking about these games. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started now. Enough dilly-dallying. So let's start off with Tales of Arise, which I technically started last year, but I played more of it this year. Funnily enough, the same thing is happening with Dragon's Dogma. That's probably what I'm gonna do for that, so I'm not including that. But yeah, back to Tales of Arise. Wow, this game was awesome. Like I just thinking back to it, like I still remember it very clearly, even though I beat this in like January at the start of this year. Like wow. I honestly think I like it more than Symphonia. I don't know though. The second half of Symphonia is pretty good. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about what I liked and disliked. One really big thing I really liked about Tales of Arise was the gameplay. I really like the system they had in place with like each character and how you could do like combos by swapping between them. Unfortunately, I didn't really do that much on my playthrough because I'm big gamer bad. I'm really bad at the game, but I really enjoyed the gameplay. And I liked how each person played really differently. Like for example, Alphen was kind of like a glass cannon. He like did a lot of fire damage, but then like he got rid of his health, so he'd be constantly dying. You know, Shion was a ranged healer. Law was a boxer. He went up and punched people, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I really enjoyed the gameplay of each characters and how you could like swap between them. Um, Another thing I really liked was the characters. I really love the main party in that game, like a lot. There is like not a single party member I hated. Like even like the lolly girl. Sorry, I don't remember her name right now. Again, this is in January, so I don't remember exactly everything about her, but even she had like a lot of good character development as the story went on, and had a nice little arc with her. You know, like the middle point of the first half of the game. So yeah, there's just genuinely not a character I disliked in the main party. Now for side characters, like I do feel like some of the villains were like cartoonish, if that makes sense. Like in the first half where you had those rich like warlord guys that were evil. Sorry, I don't really remember their name, like the name of their title, like Balsef. Those guys were kind of cartoonishly evil, like, oh, poor people, screw you, you're a different race, let's be racist. They're like mustache twirling evil a-holes. But like it was it was comical though. Like I remember just comically laughing at like how evil some of them were. Like even then, like I enjoyed that. Um, but yeah, the main cast was pretty good. I enjoyed everybody on the main cast. Like I love the character development on Alphen, his whole mysterious backstory, and then you learn that he was a holder of some super demon power. I forgot the name of it. Sorry. Again, it's been a while, but he ended up killing a bunch of people and it's left him scars, so he mentally blocked it. With the help of a freaking mask. You have Shion, who's like a reincarnation of, the girl who saved him back then. But she also has a lot of interesting character because of her unfortunate curse. And then you have someone like, even like someone that isn't even like brought to the forefront that much, like Law. Like, sure, he has like a little bit of development at the start, right? In his arc. But like at the most of the game, he's not really like in the forefront of the story. Even he was like interesting because he had his daddy issues. And he was just a bro. He always helped you out. Um, I even enjoyed him. Um, yeah, sorry if I don't remember every party member's name. Again, it's been a while. But yeah, each like party member was really interesting. Yeah, another thing I really enjoyed about that game was the gameplay. Or not gameplay, sorry, was the music. That's what I meant to say. Apparently it was done by the Golden Sun composer, and yeah, he did a great job. Now, I do hear people like be like, "Oh, the music's kind of mid." I don't know what they're smoking, bro. Like as I was playing that game, I still listen to like the music from that game to this day while editing. Like the music in that game was great. Like especially the theme that plays when you're on the waterfall running to save Shion. Like that song is awesome. I love that song. So yeah, that's the music. All right, so we're gonna get a bit controversial here. All right. So here's what I thought of the story. I thought the first half was really good, right? I thought the first half of the game was insanely good. Also, opinion warning, because apparently you have to say that nowadays because people get hung up on opinions. But I'll put an opinion warning, like disclaimer in like the comments or something. But I really enjoyed the first half of Tales of Arise like a lot. I thought it was like a complete great journey. Um, but on recollection, the second half was just kind of, it wasn't bad. I would say like I didn't hate it, but it was a lot worse than how I enjoyed the first half of that game. Like sure it's kind of cool like finally getting an answer to like why they both the races hate each other so much, you know. It's because they were scared, you know, of the freaking the aliens or telling them to do it. These creepy ass like Lovecraftian aliens were like orchestrating everything in the background, forcing everyone to fight each other for sustenance, you know. That was awesome, don't get me wrong. Um but like it's just the pacing, right? The pacing in the second half is my biggest issue because like there's a whole little section for like 2 hours you get like lore drop basically on like a spaceship. And like I don't know, I just feel like they could have handled it a bit better in the second half. Which apparently this is like a common problem in JRPGs. Is like second halves kind of like the pacing just goes out the window pretty hard. But yeah, the pacing of the second half is kind of my big problem with the story. Although I do think by the end, I do think it picks it up again when you actually head to the destroyed planet that the aliens come from, you know? I think at that point it's like, oh my god, this is awesome. And you fight through that big ass dungeon on that planet to get to the Gaia, you know, the Gaia Eater, I forgot his name. But the world thing. That part was awesome. And also like the horror. Like I like how like there was some cosmic horror kind of in this game a little bit too with those aliens. Like every time they showed up, I was freaked out. I was like, "What the fuck is that?" I remember that very clearly. Being like, "What the heck is that?" So yeah, that's kind of a complaint I have is the pacing of the story in the second half. Um, but yeah, another thing I really want to talk about that I enjoyed like a lot, um, was the post game. I didn't really expect a post game at all, but there was a pretty good post game in this game. Like surprisingly good. Like you got to see old Tales of characters come back. Um, and you got fought to like a level 100 with all these tough enemies, and you fought like an awesome boss rush at the end. Like that was genuinely a nice treat at the end of that game. Like wow, amazing treat. So yeah, that's a lot of gushing about Tales of Arise. There's gonna be a lot of gushing this year. Like I played a lot of games I really enjoyed. Because this year, spoilers alert, was a banger year for gaming. There's a lot of good games, you know. So yeah, Tales of Arise. I'm not gonna give like a score because I'm a firm believer of like I can't really score things because like I would just give everything a 10 out of 10. To be honest, I'm really bad at scores, so I'll just kind of say what I enjoyed, what I disliked, from what I remember. Because like I said, this is the end of the year, so the first half games, I won't exactly remember insanely well. But yeah, Tales of Arise, really, really good game. Really great start of the year, honestly, playing that JRPG. All right, so this is the end of the Tales of Arise section. Now, I'm going to be saying this because I'm going to have to go back and add chapters to this, so I'm helping future me out. So I believe next is Sonic Frontiers. So this game, I think I enjoyed less than Tales of Arise, but it was still really nice to play as a Sonic fan. Now it's no secret that being a Sonic fan is pretty rough. Like we have it kind of rough, all right. Most Sonic games we've gotten recently have well, not before this year and like last year have been kind of rough. Let's be honest. Sonic has not been in the best spot. And playing Sonic Frontiers really, really gave me a nice pat on the back and reminded me of the old Sonic. Now there is still problems to it. Like we're gonna get into gameplay first. While I did enjoy the mini stages and the open world, there's just something fundamentally weird about how you control Sonic in that game. Like he felt floaty, kind of. I don't know. He felt weird. Like you went farther than you wanted to. Like you slid further, and he just didn't feel, like crisp old Sonic did. So for gameplay, that's kind of my biggest complaint. But other than that, like I really enjoyed the open world and how you could just zip around, fight little mini bosses around, and just explore at supersonic speeds. And then but I enjoyed the mini stages more, and I enjoyed the music there. Next, in the gameplay part, we gotta talk about the boss battles. Absolutely, absolutely freaking awesome. Like the first few boss battles in that game were awesome. And blew me away. Like the music, oh, the music, bro. The music on the boss battles. Oh, they were so good, dude. Absolutely the highlight of that game, man, was those boss fights. Just going supersonic and just going ham on each like giant robot that you fought was so sick. Absolutely sick. I listen to all the boss themes to this day, like a bunch. Um, like like wow. Absolutely great, dude. Great boss fights. Unfortunately, like the last boss was kind of bad. I didn't enjoy it that much. It's just a stupid moon. I'm gonna piss on the moon. The words of Alfred. You piss on the moon for the final boss. But before that, like Giganto, Wyvern, and Knight were all awesome. Great fights with great music and great spectacle. So that's kind of the gameplay portion done. And then I guess we'll go on to story. I thought the story was all right. I think the story did a great job with character work. I think Sonic in this game has been the best Sonic we've had in a while. At least 3D Sonic. Because, like, he was still jokey, but, like, they really focused in on the serious side of Sonic a little more and how heroic he is, which is the part of Sonic I really enjoy. Like that's why I've always been a Sonic guy over Mario, because I'm a big sucker for heroes, and I feel like Sonic in this game, like the entire purpose of the game, like for most of the story, is saving each one of your friends from dying, and Sonic literally sacrifices himself to save all of them, and I think that was really very just great. That's the part of the story I really liked. And each character, it was written by the Sonic Comics guy, and I think he did a really good job with each character too. But yeah, other than that, the character work, I do feel like it is a bit kind of like an overdone Sonic trope at this point. That like, oh, Eggman shows up, Eggman starts shit. Oh God, there's a bigger threat, a lot bigger threat. that's going to end the world. We need Sonic, bro. We need him to go supersonic. We're about to die. Um, that's like been overdone like a lot in Sonic games. And this game is like no different. They gotta do the exact same thing. But at least the character work was really good. Um, so that's why I'm kind of like it's all right. And also the big bad was just the stupid fucking moon, which I thought was lame. I thought that shit was lame AF. And also keep in mind, I have not played the Final Horizons update yet. I will get around to it. Unfortunately, I just ran out of time this year because I was just super focused on finishing the other project. So I didn't have time to finish, do that. So yeah, sorry about that, Sonic fans. Yeah, I think we already touched on the music, like the boss themes. I'll go into more detail about what I enjoyed about the music. Of course, each boss theme was absolutely like, I think some of genuinely the best Sonic songs we've had in a while. Like holy cow, they were good, like really good. I really love Undefeatable, Break Through It All, and Find Your Flame. All three of those songs, I don't know if they're on the level of like Seven Rings in Hand or like, the Night of the Wind or Live and Learn, all those Sonic main themes. Especially like Live and Learn. I still think Live and Learn's an absolute banger of a song. Probably my favorite. But like, wow, they were very close. Like I genuinely enjoyed like each one of them, like almost on the same level as Live and Learn. Like it's kind of crazy. Like they're up there in my Sonic soundtrack tier list. If I had one. Like they're definitely up there. Like I love all three of those songs. Other than that, the stage themes were pretty decent. A little bit repetitive. And then the open world theme, I don't even really remember. I think it was just ambience. Maybe there was one, but yeah, I think that's about it for Sonic Frontiers. Really, really solid Sonic game to come back to. I do think when I beat it, I was a bit overhyping it. Also, one second. Gotta drink some water. I do think I was overhyping a bit when I beat it. I don't think it's like nearly the best Sonic game I've played, but it is still like a nice, like Sonic's still here and it's standing. And from what I heard, like it sold pretty well. So it put Sonic back on his feet. Same with the Sonic movie. So being a Sonic fan right now is pretty good. Like Sonic's future is looking bright. So yeah, I'm thrilled about that. All right, so that's Sonic Frontiers done. All right, let's talk about Yakuza 5. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the games this year that is kind of on the lower end for me. Yakuza 5, I absolutely love the Yakuza franchise. Well, I guess now Like a Dragon franchise. But I feel like Yakuza 5 for me, in the first 5 games I've played of Yakuza, so that's like, or 6 games I've played from 0 to 5, I think is my least favorite. Um, Out of all of them for a few reasons. But we'll get to them. First, we'll start off with what I liked. Um, Absolutely amazing soundtrack in that game. Like, genuinely, like, I think Yakuza 5's soundtrack for me is my second favorite that I've played in the Yakuza series. Like, I think it's behind Yakuza 0. Like, Yakuza 5's music absolutely slapped. Like, it was amazing. It was really, really good. Um, Absolutely just breathtaking, bro. They absolutely killed it with the music. Like the boss themes of freaking Collision of Our Souls, dude. That boss theme is so bloody good. Christmas Night Raid, that is such a amazing like long battle theme. I think that's genuinely like either my favorite long battle theme or one of my favorites. Like, wow, it absolutely blew me away how good the soundtrack in that game was. Even like this weird Haruka like idol part, like even the music on that part slapped. Like even the music there was decent, you know. Like the music in this game absolutely just left me on my butt, like with how impressed I was. So that's like the real good talking point. Now for gameplay, Yakuza 5's gameplay was also pretty good. It's very similar to Yakuza 0, which is pretty good. So gameplay wise, like beating goons up was pretty great. No really complaints there. I liked how each character played. You know, Kiryu, standard Kiryu dragon gameplay. You counter everybody and you jump them. With also one of the strongest freaking shit, what's the name of that move? Ah, fuck. How can I not remember the name of that move? Damn it. Um, but the counter punch. I'm sorry, Yakuza fans. I can't remember it. Um, Seijima was a big buff tank where you could just eat everyone around. And also, fucking, he was like probably the strongest character. Like on the Amon fight, I absolutely folded Amon with him. Like Seijima in that game is a monster, dude. He's like absolutely busted. Um, of course you have Haruka and Akiyama. Haruka, like, I think out of every character, I enjoyed Haruka the least. Because I don't know, like, I do love the karaoke mini game, but I think that being like a core part of the story was something I didn't agree with personally. Um, I do think at the end, like the final part with it, I think works out. But other than that, I didn't really like, wasn't insanely fond of it. Um, and of course, Akiyama played it great. Unfortunately, he was stuck with Haruka, so you don't get to play him nearly as much as like say Kiryu or Seijima. So that sucks. But still, Akiyama was great. And then you have Shinada, who was interesting. I think Shinada is like kind of a weird, like one of the weirder Yakuza protagonists you play as. Because he just plays so differently from like the standard Yakuza protagonist. If that makes sense. Like he just kind of has like his combos don't feel like as free flowing as say like Kiryu or Akiyama. But like he does some interesting things with weapons. And in the end, I like really didn't really hate playing as Shinada that much. Like I really enjoyed Shinada. Now for mini games. Yakuza 5 had some mini games I really did not like. Out of most of the Yakuza games. I really liked the taxi mini game. That one was fun. Um, but like there's this weird snowball fight mini game I remember that I hated. Absolutely remember that, but yeah, there's still the standard goodness with mini games. Um, so like karaoke, I still really liked hockey. I actually liked that hockey, and I enjoyed quite a few mini games, but some of them I really just walked away and had kind of a bad time with personally. Next is sub stories. Yakuza 5 sub stories for me. I'm trying to remember some of them. I feel like most of them were just kind of meh. Like there were some good ones, don't get me wrong. Like I remember the Akiyama one where you're with his teacher and you help him. And it ended up all being a prank, which was really funny. Like I'm just remembering kind of the mid ones right now, unfortunately. I'm sure there was some really good ones in there. But I feel like overall, like compared to the other games like Yakuza 0 or even 4, I think 4 had better sub stories. Just yeah. That was just kind of meh. Now, of course, the Amon fight. Actually, the Amon fight in that game, because we're still on mini games, right? Or sub stories. The Amon fight was really fucking good. Like, I actually think it's one of the better Amon fights. Like, it's 5v5. Like, that was honestly a really cool twist, the Amon, battle. I know Yakuza 4 kind of did it first, but I think Yakuza 5 did it better. Just because, like, I don't know. I feel like the main cast interacted more, and it was kind of like a tournament arc. And that part I really enjoyed. So yeah, sorry for sub stories. I can't really remember any of the good ones right now. So I don't really want to like too dog on it too much. So we're just gonna kind of move on. I'm sure there was some good ones in there. I just can't remember them right now. But yeah, let's see. I think that's the major points of gameplay I wanted to talk about. Now let's get to the story. Unfortunately, Yakuza 5 story for me, I didn't enjoy that much. I do think like going to like 5 different cities, like it's over ambitious, and I like that. Like I do think they had a good start to Yakuza 5 story. And I think it's really good because it kind of focuses more on Kiryu being absolutely done with the Tojo clan. Because at this point, he has dealt with them like too many times and saved their ass too many times. So I actually really enjoyed that part of the story, just showing how done Kiryu is with their shit. Like Kiryu is in this game, Kiryu is depressed and tired. Most of the characters are, just because they're so done with the Tojo's bullshit. And I think that part of the story I enjoyed. Um, just how each character is done. But I do feel like the story was a convoluted mess, even more than Yakuza 4. Like Yakuza 4's story was good up until the Kiryu part, and then the Kiryu part happened, and like fucking bunch of bullshit happened basically with the story of that game. But Yakuza 5 story, like it was nice and mysterious, but I feel like once the mystery was gone, like the plot of the villain was just kind of fucking stupid, and the twist villain was just kind of whatever. It's just this dude that you were with the entire game, and it's like the big twist is, oh, he's actually like he's the ones to be the leader of the Tojo clan, and he's overthrowing it. And it's just like, okay. And also the main villain just being like, oh, I just found out I have a son, and I'm gonna give my fortune to him. I feel like that was just kind of whatever. I didn't really enjoy it that much. Although I will say though, the final battle, is absolutely amazing. Like for such a dumb twist, in my opinion, they absolutely killed it with the final battle in that game. With Kiryu versus Aizawa, like absolutely great final battle. Unfortunately, it's just kind of like a stupid twist, in my opinion, right? But yeah, I feel like the story was just kind of overly convoluted and just ended up falling flat in the end for me. Um, of course, each character interaction was pretty great still. Like, it's good to see Kiryu with his homies again, like Seijima, Akiyama. Even Shinada being with the crew is pretty funny. Like, yeah, he was pretty lighthearted. That part about the story I enjoyed the most. Um, but yeah. One thing I will say about the story, though, is I forgot to mention this in gameplay. The long battles in this game were pretty good. Like, overall, I really enjoyed all the long battles. Um, I do think once we get to spoilers, next is Ishin. I believe Ishin's next. Yeah, Ishin's next. Ishin has, like, one of the best sub-stories or not sub-stories, long battles in my opinion. Doesn't quite get up to there, but the Christmas Night Raid one, we were raiding Kamurocho Tower by yourself was awesome. Not as badass as the Yakuza 4 one, in my opinion. I think the Yakuza 4 one was more badass, but here it was still pretty solid. Um, So yeah, overall with the story and also the Haruka part, please, that's like the worst Yakuza story part I think I've ever played. I did not enjoy that part like at all. Um, so that's kind of my big gripe with Yakuza 5 was the story, personally. I just ended up not really enjoying it nearly as much. Um, Sorry if I'm pausing and quiet, it's because I'm taking a drink because we're doing a lot of talking. Like I've been talking for 35 minutes so far, and we're only on game 3. So yeah, this is gonna be a long one. This is gonna be like a podcast, so sit back and relax, I guess. But yeah, I think that's really all for Yakuza 5. Um, Again, I want to stress I still absolutely in terms of other games, Yakuza 5 is still like a cut above the rest. Yakuza as a franchise is absolutely just brilliant. I think it's genuinely one of the best gaming franchises I've ever played. And it's up there in my favorites, up there with like Monster Hunter and Resident Evil and like all those games. Um, and I just realized I forgot to put Resident Evil 4 on this list. Good thing I remember that. While I remember that, we're gonna have to go ahead and I know Resident Evil. Did I play Resident Evil before like a Dragon? I don't remember, but we're gonna go ahead and talk about Resident Evil 4 remake. Next. So yeah, this is now RE4 remake. RE4 remake, I feel like I walked away being very critical of for some reason. Like I did a lot of thinking about it, and there were some things that just kind of ticked me to the wrong way. But like as I've thought about it more and more and more, I've warmed up to it again. Um, so as I talk about this, like you'll kind of see like what I mean by that. Um, so gameplay, standard Resident Evil gameplay, but I will say the knife parry system was really, really intuitive and great. Like I genuinely hope they bring something like that back. Because I feel like it helps mitigate the annoying ass, like, when enemies are close to you kind of deal and they're just stun locking you and just absolutely shredding your health. I hope, like, it genuinely helps against that. And each gun felt great to shoot with, you know? Standard good Resident Evil, just gameplay. And the boss fights were a nice spectacle, you know? Um, Special shout out to the Krauser fight. Absolutely just one of the best, I think, RE boss fights ever. Like that fight against Krauser was awesome. I'm still remembering it now, and it was great. So yeah, gameplay's pretty good overall, I would say. One thing that annoyed me. All right, so here we're gonna move on to sort of a gripe I had, but this is sort of a gripe I kind of had with Resident Evil as a whole. So like, I'm not really holding it against RE4 remake as hard anymore. Like I used to be like, oh, RE4 remake, ugh, one of my least favorite games I played this year. Like I was thinking, I used to be kind of like thinking it was, but like now I've kind of warmed up to it again after playing Separate Ways, which we will talk about Separate Ways, but I'm saving that for the, end part. Enemies in this game really annoyed me. They were really beefy. Mainly the Ganados really ticked me off. Like you would just do headshots and they just wouldn't die. And that's just kind of my big complaint with the game, kind of overall. Is like the Ganados and just kind of like, like the worshippers at the castle or like the island enemies, just the default mobs basically. I kind of had a problem with. Now the special like mutants, like the regenerators, the novistadors, all those kind of guys. I didn't really have a problem with, to be honest. It's just the basic common enemy. It just really pissed me off, like in this game, like a lot. just because they wouldn't freaking, they just had too much health in my opinion. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of my big complaint with RE4 Remake, to be honest. Like, yeah, is that, and that's, but I've kind of warmed up to it because I just kind of remembered like the special enemies and how I enjoyed them. Like, I don't think there's one single one I hated. Now, of course, regenerators in my videos, like I'm terrified of, but I didn't really like, hate them gameplay reasons. So yeah, overall for gameplay, oh yeah, also something I kind of want to mention in the gameplay part is they got rid of the quick time events, and thank God they did. Genuinely one of the best changes they've made from the original um, to this version. Absolutely great change. All right, moving on to story. It's the same as RE4's story, but I still like RE4's story to me was improved a lot more in this game just because they made Ashley way better. Like way better than she was in the original RE4. Like Ashley was not insufferable in this game like at all. In fact, I actually liked her. Like I feel like the big one up I will say that RE4 remake has over the original is some of the character work. Not all of it, as I'll get into here in a bit. But I feel like how they improved Ashley and Lewis was great. Like they made them way better in this game, especially Ashley. Like that is the big part, like where they improved upon the original story. Unfortunately, it's been a while since I played RE4. I played that a bunch when I was a kid, and I haven't replayed it, the original one, in a while. I'll probably do that at some point on stream. But yeah, the story is just standard Resident Evil fun. There's a fucking biohazard you got to deal with. Like that's what I like about the Resident Evil stories. Is like they're not the best, you know. I think the early games had really good stories. Like RE1 had a great story. But they're just stupid fun. Like that's what I really liked about RE4. It's just a stupid fun story. Um, so yeah, overall story was fine. I would say it was fun. Let's get to characters, which I kind of touched on a bit with Ashley and Lewis. How they improved a bunch. I do think the big kind of outlier for me in terms of the character work that was a little worse was Leon. Now he's not bad. Like I don't want to say like he was bad in this game. Not at all. I still think Leon in this game was still great. And his wit was still pretty funny, but his wit wasn't nearly as good as the original Leon's wit was. You know, and that's for like characters being he's just a little worse. Like I don't hate this Leon. I just want to stress that out, but I enjoyed original Leon a bit more in OG RE4. But yeah, other than that, on character side, I think they actually improved like almost everybody a lot more. Ashley, Luis are a lot better. Ada is a lot better in my opinion too. I like this Ada a lot more. Like I don't know, I just feel like she's like actually more of a character instead of like a seductive freaking super agent that makes all the Coomers wet. I feel like she's actually like has some more interesting stuff, even in separate ways, right? Um, music, I thought music was all right. They kind of focused more on ambience, I think. Some of the boss themes were good. Like I like the Krauser fight theme, and I liked the final boss theme with Sadler. So pretty good overall. I enjoyed Separate Ways music a lot more because it was like a spy theme with Ada. But yeah, music was solid, good. I liked each area theme. I liked the boss theme. I love I just remember the Gigante theme. That theme is great. With you're with Luis and fighting the two Gigantes. Absolutely great soundtrack there. So yeah, music's pretty solid. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So here's another gripe I have with the game. Some of the gauntlets in RE4 remake really drove me over the edge, man. So in the action RE games, there's these like little enemy gauntlets you have to go through prolifically, and like all the later ones, to be honest, like not really any of the early REs have it. I mean, they kind of do. There's like enemies around, but like they're not like you're not like in a room fighting off a bunch of enemies just like sort of coming in. That's sort of more like the action side of Resident Evil. Um, There's a couple that I remember just absolutely hating. That freaking gallery room, dude. That made me want to die. That made me so angry. I did not have a good time with that. Like, at all. Um, but there are still some good ones. I think the whole, like, the island overall as a gauntlet was way more improved than the original. Like, I remember hating the island on the original a lot. But here they actually made it a lot better. So yeah, step up on the island. So yeah, gauntlets, some of them really annoyed me, but that's just, again, personal opinion. Alrighty, so let's see. Let's move on to Separate Ways. Separate Ways overall was a lot better than the original, in my opinion. Like, yeah, I think out of anything, like, it way improved over the original. I think Separate Ways was was that. Um, Again, I enjoyed Ada's character in remake more than original. Here, I'm still not like sure I kind of simp for Ada, but like Ada's not like still my favorite RE character. You know, Leon is. Big surprise! Leon's my favorite character. But yeah, Ada was a bigger improvement. Wesker actually showing up was awesome. My favorite antagonist of Resident Evil. It was good to see him show up, every once in a while and just kind of help you begrudgingly. So yeah, Wesker was great. So gameplay in Separate Ways. You kind of have all the same guns if I remember right, which is fair. But I enjoyed the boss fights in Separate Way more than base game, I think. I really liked the Gigante fight in the town. Not as much as like the double Gigante fight. And in the main base story. Like the Gigante fight was great. And then the big highlight for me was U3. I think U3 was a great fight. Absolutely banger fight. So yeah, let me think more about gameplay. Oh yeah, the grapple hook. I freaking love that grapple hook, man. That grapple hook added, like, it was kind of like the knife for Leon. It added a lot of nice gameplay to Resident Evil. Nice twist. That did a lot to make me enjoy the game a lot more. And I still like the whole sections with Ada. Like I enjoyed the island with her. So yeah, overall, Separate Ways is like really, really good. There was some great set pieces. They brought back some of the parts they cut out from base RE4 that people wanted, like the laser room. So you jump past the lasers. U3 was the big one what people were bitching about. I do enjoy U3 probably more in original RE4, but in remake here, I actually still really like the boss fight you had with him. It was still awesome. So yeah, overall, really good things to say about Separate Ways. All right, so let me take a drink here because that was a lot of. I'm talking a lot, man. My voice is hurting. We're at an hour, and this is gonna be a long one. This is gonna be a long one, dude. We still have a lot of games to get through. All right, let me take a drink. I'm busy. Okay, 1 second, guys. I'll be back. I'm back. I go deal with a lot, but I'm back. Sorry about that. Just give me a second. All right. I think we left off on Resident Evil 4 remake. I'm finished up talking about that at least. Okay. Next should be Like a Dragonician. All right. So Like a Dragonician, I enjoyed a lot more than Yakuza 5. Let me start out by saying that. Let's start out with gameplay. The gameplay in this game felt kind of weird. Like, it's not like usual Yakuza gameplay. I get it because it's like a Yakuza spinoff. Like even then, the gameplay felt like enemies felt tankier than usual. Right? They had more health. I think that was because they wanted you to use your swords and stuff a lot more. Which I honestly didn't find that bad. Because I do think that genuinely, like, freaking Wild Dancer style is one of the most busted styles like any protagonist has used. Really, really, really fun gameplay on that end. The sub-stories were cracking me up the entire time, like the usual Yakuza fare, which I'm sure the Yakuza 5 sub-stories were doing the same, I just don't remember. But the Yakuza Ishin sub-stories were really funny. Like, I remember the dancing one. This game was a lot more comical with its sub-stories, if I remember right. There wasn't like a really serious one I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there is somewhere. You know, but I'm just really remembering the comical ones. So the sub-stories are pretty solid. The Amon fight, I'm a bit conflicted on. I really like his theme, right? But his mechanic was a little weird in this game of like attacking the individual little jelly people, as I would call them. But the specific style, which I did not pick up on, so I was just hitting them. But yeah, those were the Mon fight overall was pretty weird. But the second one where he was pretty awesome. Again, one of the best Amon themes, I think. Genuinely great song. But yeah, it's a bit easy this time around. So back to gameplay. I thought sword combat in this game felt okay. Like, it's not the worst or best sword combat I've felt. Like, it was still pretty fine. I didn't hate it or anything, you know. I thought it was fine. I do think it's unbalanced. Once you get a good sword, you just murder everything, which is funny, but I'll take it. The dungeons that you could go into, like the mini long battles, were alright. I do think when I was playing it, I enjoyed it a lot more, but kind of on recollection, like, they were just fine. Shut up, Windows Defender. I'm recording here. Anyways, I thought they were fine. Not in like insane or anything. And now I'll include it on gameplay here. The long battles in this game are really fucking good. Like Yakuza has a tendency to usually have pretty solid long battles, but the ones in this game were pretty good. Um, I'll talk about more story reasons, like when we get to the story. But I had a fun time. I think I enjoyed them more than Yakuza 5s, which is kind of crazy because Yakuza 5 actually had really good ones, really good long battles. So yeah. All right, moving on to the story. Quite the different tune for this game's story than Yakuza 5. I thought this was actually one of the better stories, uh, in any of the games. Um, Absolutely was great. I do think the mystery here was a lot better overall. With like people dying, like it was dark. Like Shinsengumi members were dropping like flies. A lot of them ended up not making it by the end of the game, which reminded me a lot of the original Yakuza. Yakuza slash Kiwami, which I really liked just because of how dark it was. Um, so story pretty good. I ended up liking the main twist. Which I mean you could see from a mile away that, oh, your brother is doing all this shit, obviously. But like him also stealing your name and like the historical, like, oh, he could maybe be the Ryoma history is talking about, and the Kiryu looking Ryoma is like actually the true one. That's kind of hidden from history. I do kind of like that twist. Um, so yeah, overall the story was dark. The mystery was more interesting in my opinion. Um, and I really enjoyed the character work. I do think each of the Shinsengumi members actually had pretty solid characters. You actually cared about most of the Shinsengumi, even though like it started off as like, oh, these guys are kind of psychos, which is true. Most of the Shinsengumi, like, they don't mind killing, right? But you ended up actually kind of forming a bond with them as the game went on, and you actually cared about them in the end. So when, like when, spoilers here, but when, you know, Kendo dies. Is his name Kendo? I think it is. But the leader of the Shinsengumi. Sorry if I'm forgetting. When he passes, it's actually really sad. One of the sadder deaths. Um, and we gotta talk about, oh, the long battles. Story wise, the last long battle I think is one of the best ones. You're with your Shinsengumi friends and you're just fighting through this massive fortress. Absolutely amazing. Like I think that is genuinely one of the best long battles I've played through. Like it was so good. Um, Genuinely one of the best. The castle long battle was also great with with Majima, or I'm sorry, Okita. You just fight through the castle with Okita, and that was awesome. Absolutely great long battles. Um, Let me think. Okay, next we're gonna talk about the music, I think. The story was pretty good. Ended up liking the twists, and had a good time with it. Didn't absolutely hate it. Now I do think the whole like, oh, you make friends with freaking those two guys by drinking is a little stupid, but apparently like that's the actual Japanese legend. So okay, it's not really a game fault. It's more of like Japanese legend writers' fault. So I'm not really holding against the game or anything. But yeah, pretty good story overall. Not really any complaints. I do think the pacing is actually pretty solid because it's like very short. Like the story's not that long. The only reason it took me so long to get through is because all the side stuff, you know. But very solid story. Music. Music in this game for Yakuza was pretty solid. I don't think it's at the highs of like Yakuza 5 or Yakuza 0 for me. Absolutely, like, no, I'm not like absolutely insanely in love with the music, but it was still pretty good. Um, Default battle theme with each of the styles is pretty solid. There is one soundtrack though that I still absolutely love and listen to this day, and that is the final boss theme, the assassination of Budishvata. Freaking amazing song, dude. Genuinely one of the best Yakuza final boss songs, in my opinion. Absolutely great. Um, Also a great final boss. I mean, Yakuza, the reason I'm not really mentioning the final boss is because like they're all good, except for like freaking I don't know Jingu, I guess, or like the Yakuza 4 one with like the stupid politician guy. But even he's just like a small part in like the greater final boss in that. So it's like usually they're good. So yeah, that's what kind of why I'm skipping over final bosses. TLDR, they're all good. But yeah, the music there was absolutely great. Um, but yeah, it was solid for a Yakuza soundtrack. Not like one of my least favorites, not one of my favorites. Just kind of somewhere in the middle. Um, Anything else I want to cover? Oh, yeah, I guess I haven't talked about what I dislike that much. I mean, it kind of comes down to the standard usual what I dislike about Yakuza games sometimes. Like, there was no hostesses in this game, thank God. I didn't even like go over the hostesses in Yakuza 5 because I genuinely am so burnt out of that stupid minigame. Um, is the absolute worst part of me completing Yakuza games is doing that, the hostess part. But some of the minigames get a little repetitive, you know, get annoying. That's sort of standard fare. Um, like yeah, the only kind of weird like that's about it for complaints. Like I kind of covered in the gameplay a little bit of how I felt about the gameplay with swords and stuff. How enemies were tankier and just kind of felt a little weird. But I don't think that's that big of a complaint. So yeah, I guess that's Like a Dragon. Great game. Next, I believe we're talking about Tears of the Kingdom. Oh boy. This game, for a lot of people, they're shitting on it now. For me, no. This game absolutely blew me away, man. Like, wow. Let's get into it. Tears of the Kingdom, gameplay wise, um, overall it was better than Breath of the Wild. I'm still not like in big insane fan of like the weapon breaking system. Like it annoys me still to this day. But you could at least counter that by like using freaking the glue ability. I don't really remember the name of it right now. The one where you combine um like with a stick or something, you can kind of counter it there. So they at least kind of addressed it a little bit. Made it a bit easier, but still very annoying. But I will say the abilities you had overall in this game were a lot better. Like building murder machines was absolutely fun. That was the funnest I've had with that game. It was on the final stream when I made Gerald and I just absolutely shredded like a boss and just some enemies. Like that was so funny. And even after beating the game, watching people make just these murder drones basically, just murdering enemies was so great. So that part of the gameplay was really good. I like all the abilities more than Breath of the Wild, probably. The only one I kind of miss is Bomb from Breath of the Wild, but like you have normal bombs in this game, so it's like not that big of a deal. Um, Overall, and also another improvement other than Breath of the Wild for me was the enemy variety. Um, Breath of the Wild, I feel like had some enemies, but like I feel like the enemy variety in that game was kind of low. You mainly just fought guardians at a point, which I kind of is kind of meh on. But this game had a lot of different enemies. They even had some new ones. Like they brought back some old enemies like the Gibdos and the likes, you know. But I also made like the new ones, like those little monkey guys that sit on the ceiling that are kind of like look like trolls. Um, those enemies were cool. Um, and then the freaking Gloom hands, dude. There was a reason of my playthrough. Whenever I saw those things, I screamed demon. I think those things are genuinely more terrifying than the Guardians. Those things scare the shit out of me, man. Those things are they're terrifying. Um so the Gloom hands are terrifying. Also the Phantom Ganon fights was cool. Um and I guess we could talk about the boss fights now. Overall, a massive improvement over Breath of the Wild again. Like, I feel like the boss fights in Breath of the Wild were pretty bad for a Zelda game, to be honest. They weren't that good. But here, I feel like the Colgera especially, like, wow, that fight was great. Another fight I really liked was the Ganon fight at the end of the game. Again, spoilers, but, you know, I already gave you guys a spoiler warning at the start of the video. I almost said stream. The start of the video. But I do think, genuinely, like, that Ganondorf fight is my favorite one. I might have to replay Twilight Princess because that might be my favorite one, but like that Ganondorf fight at the end of Tears of the Kingdom absolutely slapped, dude. It was so good. Um, Absolutely great. Um, and then another massive improvement over gameplay this game had dungeons. Overall, they were better than Breath of the Wild. But in terms of other Zelda games, they were kind of on the weaker end. I do think there was some really solid ones in here, specifically the Lightning Temple and the Wind Temple. Both of those were very solid, especially Lightning Temple. I think Lightning Temple proves that they can make a proper dungeon with the Breath of the Wild stuff, given more time. I do feel like, unfortunately, this is where I kind of fall apart. The dungeons fall apart for me. I feel like they kind of ran out of time to do them, if that makes sense. I feel like the shrines took a lot of the puzzles they could have had for the dungeons. And so it left like 3 kind of meh dungeons. Um, Water Temple was just eh. It was probably the worst one, to be honest. It was just like a sky island, you know? Just whatever. Fire Temple, like I feel like Fire Temple, it's not bad. It's just kind of mid, a little above mid, around there. And then the going through Hyrule Castle again, even if that's considered a dungeon, was pretty bad too. Um, I do think that they need to balance shrines and dungeons better. I want them to do less shrines. I'm very vocal about this. I think overall they should do less shrines and just like I would rather take like 12 dungeons over like 150 shrines or something, right? I would rather take that because I feel like each dungeon could bring something more unique. Like they're more story tied and they're more thematic and they all have a theme. So I feel like they're better than the shrines just overall. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're just going to continue upping the shrines until everyone's tired of that system, and then they're just going to go back. Um, but yeah, in terms of gameplay, like you can really feel like they improved upon what they had for Breath of the Wild, but at the same time, they were going back a little bit about what made the 3D Zelda games great. They brought back dungeons. They brought back bombs, you know. They brought back the cool thematic fights again. Boss fights. All iconic parts of old 3D Zelda. but they didn't fully go back. And because of that, I still miss old 3D Zelda a lot. Like I still think old 3D Zelda is better overall than like the two Wild games. You know. So yeah, that's gameplay. Story, probably the weakest part of the game to be honest. But it was generic, but it was fine. For me at least. I do like how dark the story got at some points. Like they kind of went for kind of more of a Majora Mask kind of angle, not nearly as dark as Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask still to this day is like probably the darkest Zelda game. Or at least up there. It's very dark. But like Zelda and Link get fucked up. Like seriously messed up, man. Like Zelda turns herself into a dragon, suffering a mortal like pain until Link saves her at the end. Link loses his fucking arm. Um and is just absolutely destroyed by Ganondorf at the start, you know. And Ganondorf, man, was an absolute douche. Like he was like the most evil Ganondorf probably. Like he's the closest to demise in terms of a Ganondorf. Like he was just an evil guy that just wanted to end the world, which I do feel like there is a little generic, you know. Like some of the Ganondorfs in the past actually had good characters, like the Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time Ganondorf. Both of those Ganondorfs actually had complexity to them. This Ganondorf's kind of missing that, but as like a big evil guy, I thought he was pretty good. But the same problem I had with the Breath of the Wild story is they make the story like take a big back seat to everything else in the game. They kind of focus on gameplay more and really put all their specs into that for the game. And just make you like watch the story in the past, which again, I don't really like. I kind of like when Zelda stories, when Link's actually like in the present, like helping everybody with the story, like as the story's going on. Like Ganondorf did all this fucked up stuff. Link is actively countering it, and the story's happening like in the current time, not like in the past, like it kind of was for Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. Now there was a story in the present, like, wow, how would I describe it? It's like I like the story being more present focused and not splitting its attention between like the past and the present. If that makes sense. But yeah, the story was fine, a bit generic, pretty easy to see. But I had a fine time with it, and I like some of the messed up twists, and I like the Ganondorf's final battle. So overall, I'm fine with it. And I still like how Link just beat Ganondorf with the Master Sword, didn't use a MacGuffin. Absolutely Giga Chad Link. Music. Some really good themes in here. Didn't really reach the highs of old Zelda themes, but like there's some really good ones. Like I really enjoyed Colgera's theme. Absolutely banger theme. I really enjoyed the Ganondorf theme at the end of the game, the final battle. Absolutely great. And some of the dungeon themes are solid, like the Lightning Temple one I really liked. Same with Wind Temple. Both of those themes were good. So overall, the music's pretty solid. Not the best, not the worst. All right, let's get into some complaints. A little more complaining. Man, the side stuff in these types of games just suck. Like I'm gonna be real. Like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild side stuff just suck. Like Koroks, they suck, man. Stop bringing them back, please. Just stop. Like just stop. I really hope to God in the next Zelda game I do not see a Korok. Like genuinely, they have ruined Koroks with the two Wild games. I don't want to look at another Korok, dude. Like, they're just garbage. Like, it is funny in this game you get to torture the Koroks. That is pretty funny. But like, man, there's just too many of them, and they're just too mundane and just brain just rotting. Shrines. I'm a little mixed on shrines. I do like some of the shrine puzzles when they get unique. They're really fun. Like, yeah, but I just hate the number of them. I hate how they just they spam like over like a couple hundred of them or like 100 of them, and like, some of them, most of them are just like blessings that you just get to, you know. It just feels wasted. Um, so yeah, I think shrines overall are better than the Koroks. Koroks are fucking awful. Please stop bringing them back. For the love of God, just stop. Exploration of the world. I actually enjoyed it a lot more in this game than Breath of the Wild, just because I really like the depths. They're really cool. Like those two streams where I was exploring the entire depths was awesome. And also the Sky Islands. Like this open world was huge. And out of every open world I've explored this year, I think that was genuinely the funnest to explore. Um, really good open world. So the exploration was solid. The side quests were also solid. I do think that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, like in terms of side quests, are solid. Um, Definitely one of the more bigger highlights is doing these side quests over than like the freaking stupid ass Koroks and shrines that annoy me. So yeah, overall side quests are solid. I really like the Great Fairy one because Great Fairy's a MILF and I really like her. But yeah, overall, Tears of the Kingdom I think is a very massive step up for me from Breath of the Wild. They embraced some of the stuff that old 3D Zelda did that made it good, without fully backtracking, which sucks because I do still enjoy old 3D Zelda more than the two Wild games. Um, but like they're not bad. They're still solid games. So yeah, it was genuinely one of the funnest times I've had this year. And even me complaining about like some of the side stuff, overall, like I still insanely enjoyed this game, and it's definitely up there in terms of my favorites this year. So yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, very, very good. Next is Street Fighter 6. So this is going to be interesting because out of every game I've played this year, I walked away from this game the worst. Um, Genuinely, like, other than DBD, me quitting DBD this year, I walked away from this game and I kind of hit it on stream, really unhappy. Like, but that's kind of on me. Like, I'm not gonna hold it against the game. I think overall Street Fighter 6 is a really, really fucking good game. Like, it's like like a really, really good fighting game that you can tell Capcom put a lot of work into to make it really good. I just had a very, very bad time with it. It even made me question, how I feel about fighting games, which luckily me picking up Granblue and playing that a couple bit, which we'll get to Granblue later, that eased my worries about fighting games. I still really enjoy them. Um, but yeah, Street Fighter 6, gameplay. Really, really, really good gameplay. Unfortunately, I'm big baby bad at, fighting games, so I can't really go in depth about, footsies and mind games and all that, but I was still getting there a little bit with Street Fighter 6. Like, I learned some combos with Cammy. I wasn't that good, though. I would consider myself a pretty big fighting game noob. But the drive system was really solid. I ended up walking away a bit more mixed on it, because the drive system also kind of makes it to where you can't mess up that much, like at all. You had to kind of play very, very, very smartly, or you're just gonna get parried, which is the biggest one to look out for. And also drive impact, but like it's not that strong. You can react to it pretty easily. Um, so yeah, the drive system was solid overall. Drive rush, helping people get into combat was really solid. I just genuinely enjoy the fighting game systems where they want you to be in the actual battle, defending and getting your turn. Um, Bunch of fighting games are doing that. So yeah, in terms of gameplay, really solid game. So gameplay and World Tour. So I'll talk more about World Tour's story once we talk about story. But gameplay and World Tour, the mini games were fun. I do feel like fighting a bunch of the goons kind of got repetitive, kind of like an RPG, but it was still fun. It was arcadey and fun. I enjoyed playing multiplayer way more than World Tour in terms of the gameplay department, but like I didn't hate it. Yeah. So yeah, World Tour's gameplay was fun and campy. I can't really talk about the story yet because we're not in the story section. But yeah, the reason I walked away, I'm just gonna kind of touch on this real quick. Walked away from the game in a very bad spot was just because I just grinded ranked a bunch and it got tiring and really just was bad for my mental state. So that is something I'm hoping to avoid in the future fighting games I play. I think I'm gonna kind of stick to more casual, a little more. Maybe do some ranked, if I'm feeling confident and if I can handle the pressure. But I don't want to like slam rank down my throat like I was doing with Street Fighter 6. I don't think that's smart. Like I was slamming it down my throat and I just ended up just not having a good time with the game overall and walking away with a bad impression. But even like my negative feelings towards how that game made me feel by the end of it, I can look past that and still say that Street Fighter 6 was a really good game, you know? Um, Anyways, let's move on to the story. So it's mainly World Tour. In terms of a fighting game story, it's not like NetherRealm levels where it's like they actually have good writers or something, like story writers on it. I don't know if they're good writers. I don't know. I haven't played Mortal Kombat, but like there's like actual writers dedicated to the story for Mortal Kombat. It's not like that level, but the story felt very like the end was I actually enjoyed. At least the ending I got. It actually ended very bleakly. I think I got like the bad ending or something, and it was funny. I had a good time with that. But like yeah, the story overall was just kind of fine. Um, it was fun to take your own creative character and like go through and learn from each of the masters. Absolutely fun to do that. Even the evil masters were funny. Like JP, he just like injects you with psycho power. And if Jury is just like, whatever, just let me train you. So yeah, it's good to see them. I think that's the major highlight to the World Tour for me is seeing each of the masters and interacting with them. Now, there isn't really much of a story. It's just you're trying to find your friend. Which, yeah, things don't turn out well for your friend. Let's just say that. Uh, well, yeah. World Tour I thought was fine overall. Nothing insane. Nothing horrible. I do think like characters looked a little weird, but that's more of like everyone was kind of a creative character. So yeah, World Tour was fine. And I do feel like Street Fighter is going into an interesting direction with the story, like what they're doing with Ken and JP. I think that's very interesting. I hope Ken has a good arc, and I hope Ryu helps Ken out. I think they're doing some interesting setup there. So yeah, music really good. I do think the music in Street Fighter 6 is actually one of the better soundtracks I've listened to. Very good motivational music to keep you in the game and keep you playing. Um, and just yeah, really great music. Like again, I really like the verse, like the verses menu theme gets you motivated to like actually get into a fight in practice in lab, you know, absolutely underrated song that actually kept me motivated for most of my time playing Street Fighter 6. So in terms of music, they've done a very good job at motivating you. Um, Alrighty, as for stuff I didn't like, um, let me think. Again, like some of this is just personal preference, like me walking away from ranked with a bad experience. That's nothing really to hold against the game tangibly. Um, I do think the big thing that can be criticized about Street Fighter 6 is the shop. I genuinely think that is the worst part of the game. Everything is over monetized, and the freaking Ninja Turtles costing how much, like $20 or something, and then the freaking recently the alternate costumes that just came out being like $100. They need to stop that. Like that is so greedy. I'm not spending $100 for some fucking costumes. Like no. So if there is like one big stain on Street Fighter 6, it is the shop being really greedy and just overpriced. Um, Absolutely just shameful on Capcom's part. They need to fix that shop. Um, some parts of World Tour, like some of the enemies kind of got on my nerves, but that's about it. Overall, Street Fighter 6 is a really good experience, even though I walked away from it horribly. I still think Street Fighter 6 is probably one of like for the everyone else like their best fighting game. For me, Grand Blue's mine, which we'll talk about later why. Even though I've not played Grand Blue that much, I just think just Grand Blue is more for me. I think Street Fighter 6 is a really good addition to Street Fighter. Absolutely picked the franchise up from Street Fighter 5. And yeah, more people that are like more in depth and know how to Street Fighter 6 works, probably can give better opinions than me. So yeah, sorry, you're just kind of stuck with my what I remember opinions, which somehow we've stretched for like an hour and 40 minutes now. I know this time isn't exact because I'm gonna cut out a huge section because I had to go do stuff for like 20 minutes, but yeah, it's crazy how I'm this far in just talking about this stuff. All right, next. Master Detective Archives Rain Code. Holy crap. This game came out of nowhere for me. And funny story, was actually the game that gave me the biggest pain in the butt to get out of any game I've played this year. Um, this is up there. What was another game that was a pain in the butt to get? I'm trying to remember. There's another game other than Rain Code. Oh yeah, I guess Grand Blue technically was, but that's because like I couldn't pre-buy it or anything, you know? But it was such a pain in the butt to get. But I am so glad I got it. Rain Code blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. So yeah, let's just get into Rain Code. Gameplay, it's a detective game. So it's kind of like the gameplay is more of like point and click, I guess I would say. Like you just explore areas, you know, investigate certain areas. And yeah, but what there was kind of a neat twist. Kodaka kind of brought back what made Danganronpa kind of special a little bit is like each person having like kind of like a super ability. He kind of brought that into this game, and I thought that was really refreshing and really kept the story refreshing. Like each of the abilities you saw were actually all really interesting. Um, Absolutely blew me away. In terms of the gameplay department, I loved just investigating. I really loved the mystery labyrinths too. I think they were really, really cool to just go into. Even though they ended up kind of just being mini games, really, most of the time. But like I don't know, just the environmental setting of some of them were really cool. Um, like how what was it? I think case 3, the one with the school. That mystery labyrinth was so cool. Like how you like go through a bunch of different areas and different paths and then kind of all converge to like one conclusion. I thought that was really neat. Some of them did get a little bit generic, I think, in the end, because I think Kodaka kind of ran out of time and had to like kind of focus more on the story. So yeah, that part of the gameplay was really good, the mystery labyrinths. The RDMs, the like deathmatch where you use your evidence after you do your investigations. Um, which investigations, I guess I'm gonna touch on real quick, were pretty standard. You just kind of look around for details, for gameplay. But what makes it more interesting is when you combine it with the RDMs, where you use each piece of like the investigation to fight off the enemy with your truth blade, which I thought was the RDMs were fine. I do think the part I enjoyed most is just finding their contradiction. I do think the dodging and bullet heli kind of thing was kind of okay, and I do think it actually does get pretty epic later on with the final boss. And same with like, the fourth case. I think the fourth or fifth case, the second to last one. There was a really cool battle there with Vivia. That fight was awesome. So yeah, RDMs most of the time are just kind of meh for me. I wouldn't say meh. They were fine. They were fine. I didn't like hate them. They were fun though. They remind me a lot of the class trials. I don't know why I'm like trying to be like, oh, they were mid. No, they were mid. I enjoyed them. What am I on? I need to work up my terminology. So yeah, RDMs were fun. The fucking Shinigami puzzle though, I fucking hated. Fuck that, bro. If there's one part of this game I will complain about, it is that puzzle, bro. Overall, like it wasn't that bad, but like at the start, man, on the first case, that really tilted me. Um, so yeah, the puzzles were I think in terms of gameplay, that's kind of the weakest part for me. What other? There's like a lot of different like mini games. Like there's some quick time events I thought were fine. Nothing insane, just to kind of keep you on your toes, for each like mystery dungeon, Pokemon mystery dungeon, no, mystery labyrinth. The mini games, God Shinigami, I guess that was fine. Again, it was just kind of freaking button presses. But what carried the gameplay for me was just like, the mystery and looking through cases. Because I'm a big sucker for detective games. I love Ace Attorney. I fucking love Ace Attorney a lot. And I love Danganronpa. And here, I think Kodaka absolutely cooked with the cases in this game. They all overall were really good. So yeah, that's the part that really carried the gameplay for me. But I do still think like piecing the mystery together, that part was still really solid. All right, the story. Absolutely killer. Like genuinely one of the I'm gonna say it now. I think the story in this game is my favorite Kodaka story. I think it beats out Danganronpa 2 for me, just slightly. I still think Danganronpa 2, like overall, was a really amazing game, but man, holy shit, the story in this game blew me out of the fucking park. That is where this game really, really gripped me. Um, like there was like only one kind of mid case, to be honest, which for a detective game is really good. There's usually like two. Like if you played Ace Attorney, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Like there's always a case that's just kind of like, why am I doing this? Like the circus one, and what was it? The freaking I think it was the second Ace Attorney game. Fuck that case. But here it was just kind of the terrorist one. But even then, that one was still interesting because there was a lot of like a plot twists. But like the first case in this game blew me out of the fucking park. Like just getting introduced to all these characters and just watching them all fucking die like immediately. Like holy fucking shit. Like I was absolutely blown away. Also, I should have said this a bit earlier, but obviously, like again, stressing spoilers because I, if you're a Danganronpa fan, I absolutely recommend playing this game 100% blind. That's why I am such a big fan of it now. Is the blind experience was so fucking amazing. But yeah, the first case absolutely killed it. Like this game's story, in the first case, like each case by case story was very good. The overall story ended up also being insanely good once you figured out the twist. Um, yeah. So yeah, story for Raincode, fucking amazing. Absolutely amazing. The music in this game fucking slapped. For me, this is the first soundtrack since Danganronpa 1 that I absolutely revisit a bunch. Danganronpa 2 had good music, but yeah, this game's soundtrack absolutely was great. I love the vibes of it all. Um, and yeah, absolutely great. Moving on from Raincode. Let's go on to Star Rail. Star Rail. So this is a funny little game that also came out of nowhere for me. This game, like I've tried out a Oyo game before with Genshin Impact, and it didn't really grip me. Um, Honestly, nothing really against Genshin, I would say. Like I didn't walk away from Genshin with a negative experience. I was just kind of busy at the time, with Fate Go, and yeah, and the gameplay of Genshin wasn't really my cup of tea. Again, nothing against Genshin. I still think it's a pretty solid game. But we're not talking about Genshin. We're talking about Star Rail. Star Rail is interesting because it's a gacha game. So the story, like when I get to that section, isn't complete. Even the story for FGO isn't complete, you know. So it's kind of weird to judge it from, but I can judge it from what I've played. But anyways, let's go ahead and start with gameplay. It's a really good RPG system, I'd say. I think that's the main thing that kept me coming back to it at the start when the story really didn't grip me yet. Was the gameplay. Because for an RPG system, I really enjoy like the different weaknesses and weakness breaking the enemies and building your team sort of around that, and also building team comp around support and like of that same type, like a support fire kind of like Asta, and more of a DPS fire kind of like Gwynafin for me. So yeah, the team building is a really solid part of Star Rail, and also the weakness breaking, and just whole all of that, and also the enemies. Oh my god, dude, the enemies are rough in this game. They actually do get pretty hard. Like the last Equilibrium I did on the last stream, um, was rough. Like that enemy was hard. And I do like the enemy variety too in this game. Like there's a lot of different enemies, and you even fight other characters in boss fights, which is interesting. You kind of mainly see those in the simulated universe a lot. Like the Jeopard fight I can kind of think of, and Svarog's fight are a lot more in the simulated universe are interesting. Um, And also, yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about the simulated universe on the gameplay part. I absolutely love it, man. I am a sucker for roguelikes, um, as seen with BlazBlue. Also, I'm not talking about BlazBlue, but TLDR, I enjoy BlazBlue, but I'm a big sucker for roguelikes, so it's a roguelike mode, which every game does nowadays, you know, like, oh boy, a roguelike mode, but I think Star Rail did it a lot earlier. Um, and I just absolutely love the simulated universe. Like that is the mode I think I've played the most out of that game. Like I played a lot. And now that I actually have the proper simulated universe, I've been playing it more and more, and I'm just having fun with it. Just the different stupid roguelike runs you can do, like the runs with the hunt I have, where I'm just faster than the enemy, and I just am constantly weakness breaking them and going again and like doing multiple turns. That is so fun to me. Or like Nihility, like seeing an enemy just get absolutely shredded by dot damage. Because dot damage in Star Rail is actually good. Like it's the first game in a while where I've seen where dot damage is actually pretty solid. Because dot damage is usually kind of a meme, at least from what I've played on games. So yeah, that's absolutely funny. So simulated universe is absolutely a banger part of the gameplay loop that keeps me coming back. Um, for gameplay, one point I kind of don't like is the side quests. There are some good ones, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of like nowadays, like I've actually played through a lot of decent ones. But like at the start, oh boy, some of the ones at the start were rough. You know, it's kind of like Yakuza, where some of the sub stories are like really good, but some of them are kind of dog water. I kind of feel the same way with Star Rail. So in terms of like the like core gameplay loop, I think that's kind of the weakest part of Star Rail for me is like the quests, like the side quests. But again, that's not a bad thing to have as a weak point. Like it's not like a core part of the game. You can skip past side quests, you know. So it's like whatever. Yeah. Next, let's talk about the story. So this is the part that had to took some time for me to get used to. But I do love the like the setting of like a space odyssey. I'm a big fan of Gundam, and all the Gundams I really like do this. You know, they have like a big space odyssey. You're going through space, like exploring different planets, fighting different enemies. Absolutely great thematic theme there. Or like I guess I not like set dressing. Yeah, I'll say that. But the story overall, this is my first Honkai game, so like I'm not really well versed in the Honkai verse. So it took me a little bit to get into it, like learn the terminology and start enjoying it. Kind of like how at the start of Fate, when I kind of had to learn servants, you know, all yada yada yada, all that stuff, you know. I had to learn all the terminology, the enemies, but I do think they do a pretty good job explaining that. And I do think the prologue for Star Rail is really good. Um, you fight this big enemy, you have like an anime super power up. You see Kafka doing a little trolling. I think that whole start is interesting. Um, so yeah, on to Bellabog. So that's like the second area. Overall, the story, like the final battle and payoff, was really good. Although I do feel like it was sort of generic. Not like I still enjoyed it, but like the whole trope of like, you know, rich people and poor people, that whole separate thing, like in fantasy is kind of overdone a bit. So that trope was kind of a, you know, a little whack. Um, but like other than that, like I still enjoy the characters on Billabong quite a lot. I really like Serval. I like Branya, Seeley. You know, I like each of the characters and how they kind of interweave with each other for the story of Bellabog. ended up being very, very solid by the end of it. Um, of course, I was there for a while, so I do feel like it was kind of stretched out a bit, but that's mainly me doing side stuff, so yeah. But the part that absolutely gripped me was the final battle against Cocolia. That battle, dude, like the boss fights in Star Rail that I've played through so far have all been great, man. Like they've all been good. Um, like that Cocolia fight was just dope, dude. And the music, oh, the music kicking in. Oh, what a great fight, man. What a great fight. Um, Speaking of music, let's go ahead and move on to that because yeah, I think the story for Bellabog was pretty solid. I haven't gotten to the next area yet. I started it on the last stream I did. But I'm not far enough in to comment on it, so I don't know how good it is. And also event stories, like I can't really comment on that because I've only done one event and it was like taking pictures for March. You know? So yeah, story overall pretty solid. Not the best story I've played this year, but like not the worst. Next is music. Music in this game slapped. Absolutely amazing. Um, Cocolia theme, grade A, dude. I love the freaking main theme of the game too. Like I think in terms of music, that is a very like Hoyo absolutely does a great job of music. Um, Absolutely slaps. Again, the Cocolia fight's great. That's like the big thing that's like stuck in my head right now, and I listen to it all the time now. So yeah, they slapped it out of the park with music, man. Like they did really good. So overall, I would say Star Rail, very, very good game. Like I ended up kind of just playing it for a stream and coming back later. That's kind of like a whim, but I'm glad I'm playing it. I'm having a good time playing Star Rail. I've been having fun, and I'll continue to stream it, and the and having a good time. And also like the daily grind for that game hasn't gotten that bad for me. FGOs is pretty bad for me. Like now I just kind of grind events because like doing dailies is kind of just meh. I don't like it, but it hasn't gotten bad for me. I'm sure eventually it will, because every gacha game's daily grind gets pretty rough. Um, but yeah, Honkai Star Rail, really, really solid game. All right, next, Lies of P. Again, another game that absolutely came out of nowhere that just absolutely blew me away. Like, wow, Lies of P. Let's get into it, man. Gameplay. The gameplay for this game is a little weird. It's unique, but I feel like they also tried to do a bit of like the Sekiro kind of parry thing. And overall, I think it's just worse than Sekiro, just because of how the enemies are programmed, like how their movement is, if that makes sense. Like the animations are really whack looking, how they just strike down fast, and the wind-up's a little rougher to see. Like it's tighter. Um, but that is only one small part of the gameplay. That's the one I mainly did in my playthrough. You know. Hold on, let me drink. Sorry. Like I'm doing a lot of talking, so eventually I just have to drink something to clear my throat. Anyways. But yeah, that's the part I did of the gameplay, and I do feel like sometimes I got a little weird. That's the gameplay that I mainly did. I'm repeating myself. Ignore that. But that's the part I mainly did. Unfortunately, I didn't really explore like the different like hand abilities I should have done that a bit more. But yeah, it still felt very great for a Souls game or Souls-like. Like out of FromSoft, I feel like the gameplay loop in this game was still very fun. Enemies were a bit tanky for my liking, kind of like Elden Ring. I don't really like the tankier enemies that just take more hits to kill. But maybe you can kill them fast, you know. It was only my first playthrough. Maybe if I do another playthrough, I'll, you know, shred enemies. So, yeah. Boss fights. For gameplay, it was rough at first. I'm gonna be real. I enjoyed the Puppet Master and then the Scrap Watchman. Those two fights were really, really good. But then after that, like for the first half, like all the other boss fights in the first half, I didn't like that much. I didn't like the freaking Mega Man fire guy. Absolutely, was bleh, just did not like him. The freaking chicken nugget, the stupid archbishop, hated that thing. Um, the freaking stupid gank boss, the Brotherhood, did not like that fight either. But then you sort of get to the halfway point, and I feel like this is the point in the game where they really put on their A game. Like I think the first half of Lies of P is just all right, and then the second half they turn the fuck up. Like everything just improves like a lot. It's like the exact opposite of like original Dark Souls. How the first half is like, oh wow, this game's amazing, and then you get to the second half, you're like, oh, what is all this reused asset BS? You know. But Lies of P is like the exact opposite. I enjoyed every fight in the second half. Like even the stupid Reed gank fight, like I enjoyed jumping them because they give you the right resources to do it in that fight. But like Victor was fun. It was funny to watch fight a dude that tried to box. You know, that shit was funny. Um the spaghetti monster again was also funny. Just this weird spaghetti monster, and also it like goes into the Watchmen kind of, which was interesting. Um who else? There's a few other bosses. Loxia. That fight was interesting. I enjoyed it quite a lot. The only fights I can kind of think of I didn't like was the stupid, was Manus. He was kind of annoying and focused more on magic, kind of being a fight, but the final boss, too, was also really good, against Geppetto. Really good fight. I enjoyed. So, yeah, overall, I would say boss fights really picked up on the second half for me. Um, like, the first half had some rough ones, but then the second half got a whole lot better. Um, so let's go into my absolute favorite part of this game for gameplay, the area design. This absolutely blew me away. I have not seen area design in a Souls-like game in a while that was this good. Like, each area, like especially you'll see later how they do areas, blew me away. Like I love the gothic aesthetic of Lies of P, kind of like Bloodborne. Um, and I just love the level design, to be honest. Like for the market, for example, this is just kind of a part of the level. Like you get one bonfire basically, and you just like explore this big market that always links back to the same bonfire. This is absolutely awesome. I love what they did with the area design in the second half of this game. Like they fucking cooked. I love the market area. I like the freaking like street and the going to the fire street, you know, Rosa Isabel Street, and then going to the big theater with the Puppet King. That part was awesome too. And even on the first half of the game too, like the freaking chapel, seeing all the zombies going up to there, that was awesome. Like that is absolutely or not miserable, absolutely memorable. Um, and I just gotta talk about the final area, man. Fucking cooked, man. The final area in this game was so awesome, dude. Like, it was fucking awesome. Just storming this massive ass fortress slash tower for like a while was so awesome. Like, wow, dude. Absolutely blew me out of the way, man. Like, air level design in this game is probably my favorite part. Like, they just absolutely embrace what made original Souls amazing. Just the level design and the interconnectivity of it. I think they captured very well in this game. Like, yeah, they absolutely cooked. I believe that's about everything with the level design I kind of want to talk about. Um, Again, absolutely amazing. Um, yeah, so story. Um, really good. I really like the whole twists and turns of it. Like, first you gotta deal with the puppets, then you kind of deal with them for a little bit, and then you get past the factory, and then you get to like this zombie infection kind of story of the people kind of going crazy with this like blue blood and just turning into zombies from like the ergo curse they had. Absolutely crazy there, and then you go through there, you beat the fucking chicken nugget bishop, and then you learn of like the evil sorcerer, like kind of freaking using the magic. Excuse me. Uh, to screw over the citizens. And just the whole, like, this game is dark. Like, they absolutely covered what makes a Souls like a tragedy. Souls is dark fantasy. Like, you don't want to live in that world. You don't want to live in the world of Souls. It's rough. Um, and I think Lies of P absolutely crushed that part. Um, and again, I like the twists. Geppetto being evil, I saw from like so far away, but like even then, like he still kind of plays his cards right, and he's still like an interesting villain. It, he plays all his cards right for the entire game until the end. Like he lets you basically deal with Manus for him, so he can get his plan because he's like because there's like two villains basically. There's him and Manus, so he's like the puppet villain, right? Manus is like the zombie villain kind of guy, you know, who is the one that has trying to use Sophia for the curse. And so he just kind of buys his time for an epic climactic battle. So I thought, story-wise, like this game had a lot of tragedy in it and was great. Especially what happened to Sophia for me. Absolutely broke my heart, like genuinely. And yeah, very, very, very solid spot for a story on that game. Again, a Souls-like game. Music slapped in this game. Was really, really good. I feel like the parts I enjoyed of the music was like the classical kind of like music you just hear around the city. Like for example, when you get to the big like museum slash gallery kind of area, you just hear that like the happy theme in the background. That's a banger. That in like the set piece of like all the dead people. Absolutely amazing. Um so yeah, music boss themes are pretty solid. I like the tower theme, the last area's theme. And I enjoyed some of the final battle music, you know. So it's pretty solid overall. Not like the best I've heard, but like it slapped. It was still a really good time to listen to as I played through that game. I kind of touched on kind of parts I didn't like about Lies of P already. Some of the boss fights were kind of ass. That's kind of my big complaint. And like some of the weird animations were kind of janky. But that's mainly because of the way I was playing, trying to parry. But like other than that, I feel like most of the boss fights were good. I do think a bit everything was a bit tanky for my liking, but again, that's just a build issue. I'm sure like I can make a build that will absolutely shred them, you know? But overall, I had a really, really great time with Lies of P. Again, it came out of nowhere and absolutely cooked. Like, absolutely cooked for me. So yeah, moving on from Lies of P, we are going straight into Samurai Remnant. Samurai Remnant. Oh boy, this game was great. This game was awesome, man. I love this game. All right, one second. I'm gonna take a drink and then we're gonna get into what made Samurai Remnant really good. Oh man, let's get into gameplay because this is probably the weakest part for me. Muso gameplay, I'm not the biggest fan of personally. I think it's fine. Like I don't hate it, but it's definitely like something like I'm not a big fan of, or a bigger fan of. I would say like it's fine. I don't hate it, but it's not like Souls-like gameplay. Which apparently it's funny. Apparently they were gonna make Samurai Remnant a Souls-like, but they ended up going with a more action gamey kind of Devil May Cry kind of spectrum of it. Which unfortunate for me, but I kind of get it. Like it's probably why it's doing a lot better. Um, like yeah. So I get that. So yeah, like the kind of action gamey things I'm kind of on, but the part that really picked up the gameplay for me, like the core gameplay loop, was the servants and noble phantasms. Like using servants, like using Seba in battle was awesome. Even like switching to like Q and using them in battle was great. I felt like that was really fun and definitely made gameplay insanely bearable for me. Um, so that's like the part of the gameplay that I really enjoyed. And man, they absolutely cooked with the noble phantasms in this game. I thought like as an introduction as for a Fate fan, Samurai Remnant is really good into why I enjoy Fate so much. I really love the historical figures that they cover, and they even cover the tragedy of them too. You know, that's the part that really got me into Fate. They cover that in this game too. But let's go back to gameplay. But the part that really encapsulated me and made me really love Fate was the Noble Phantasms too. I fucking love Noble Phantasms, bro. Like seeing Excalibur for the first time or seeing Unlimited Blade Works in the original anime absolutely blew me away. Like I haven't felt like, oh my god, this is an awesome super move, bro. Like I haven't felt that way since like I saw Dragon Ball for the first time. Like I love NPs. NPs are great, and I feel like this game covered NPs and how powerful they are very well. And each servant, like each of their abilities, very well. So I think the servant side of this game, how they handled it, was very, very good. Like they cooked on the servant side of gameplay for this game. Um, so yeah, another part of gameplay I kind of didn't enjoy was like the weird freaking armor bar or like armor system they had. Like Gil was pretty egregious. Like his defense was like way high, but again, like you kind of go around that with the different styles, which I didn't even get into the different styles for Iori. Again, that made the gameplay a lot better too. Like the Iori's different styles, like unlocking Void. Void is like my favorite style, and that improved the gameplay quite a lot. Although I did make it pretty brain dead at the second half. Um, so yeah, overall, I would say gameplay is probably the weakest part of Samurai Remnant for me, but like that's not a bad thing. Like the gameplay is still like I would say an 8 or it's like I don't know, I don't want to put a number on it, but it's still very very solid, right? How I would describe it. Let's get on to the story. And oh my god, the story in this game was amazing. Like seriously, dude, I haven't seen a Fate story this good for a while. Like since I mean, I guess I'm playing FGO, so I shouldn't say that, but wow, the story in this game was great, dude. Like it was very well written. I heard it was written by the guy who wrote Fire Emblem Three Houses, and he fucking cooked. Like he did a great job, like with the characters and just how the conflict fucks like messes with them. Like Iori, like I think I did kind of like I haven't done all the routes, so let me be clear there. Um, I haven't done all the routes for Samurai Remnant yet, but I have seen sort of some of the other routes. Just kind of spoilers, unfortunately. Like I've been spoiled on it. Um, and he is keeps the interesting like tradition of Type Moon protagonists. Type Moon does a really good job with their protagonists, making them gray. That is again something that I really enjoy about the Type Moon games and the universe is how they handle their protagonists. Iori is someone given the right ticks can be a bad person. And the Holy Grail War does bring that out in him. Like he becomes like a fucking war, like a merciless warrior that like kills people and kills like servants, you know. That is absolutely like wow. Like Iori's character absolutely blew me away. I again, I don't think he's as interesting for me as Shiro was, but like Shiro is kind of like a really like my favorite Type Moon protagonist that has a lot of interesting nuances to him. But Iori as a Type Moon protagonist, I think is still very, very, very good. Like he is a very great protagonist, and I really enjoyed that about him. Saber, honestly, a really, really good Saber. I think I called Saber a she most of the game, even though I'm pretty sure Saber's a guy now. I think it's a he, funnily enough. So I'm sorry about that, but Saber's whole story was very tragic and reminded me a lot of Artoria. How you do all this fighting, and it just in the end it just doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, you just get thrown to the wayside. Nobody cares about you. Again, a very nice and tragic story, and Saber was a very fun character to be around. I really love Saber's dynamic with Iori. It was kind of like a sibling dynamic, funnily enough. Like at the start, they both kind of hated each other a little bit, but as like the story went on, they both bonded, and they both ended up caring a lot more about each other by the end of the game. So Saber was a very, very good Saber to be with. Um, I don't really remember Saber's name right now, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Sorry, it's been a while. But yeah, Saber was great. For supporting characters, the servants were great, obviously. Like seeing Lee, seeing Ku, seeing Gilgamesh, seeing all these just servants I'm a massive fan of come into the main story. Even like servants I don't really particularly care about, like Cersei. I think Cersei got some really good spotlight here in this game. And like the new servants they brought were great. You know, like and Musashi, you know, again I sim for her, so I don't really want to bring her up that much because it'd just be me gushing about her. But I thought Musashi and Iori had a good dynamic. You know, it was like a student teacher dynamic that was a really solid dynamic you saw throughout the game and makes Musashi a lot more interesting. I do think when they cook with Musashi, they cook with Musashi. Musashi's a really good character. Um, and also, dude, this is a little side tangent, but seeing more about the actual, like, R Miyamoto Musashi. So if you don't know in Fate, there's two Musashis. There's the male one and then there's the female one. So Samurai Remnant is the first one where you sort of see more of the male Musashi. And it was really cool to actually see him and get a little bit more of his character. Because he is kind of an enigma in the Fate universe that we want to see more of. But yeah, absolutely great supporting characters. And let's talk about the new servants that were brought in. Wow, they were great, dude. Archer was awesome. Archer was just sort of like a nice, kind of loyal friend character. He was very loyal to his master. But he also had a really cool noble phantasm, and he ended up going out very tragically. He kind of was like, kind of like the coup of this game, you know. He was a really interesting character, and then it's an effed up war, man. They just got to do that sometimes. They got to kill off somebody kind of more fucked uply, and they kind of did that with Archer. Archer was great. Rogue Berserker, which is Samson. I remember his name. The green-haired Berserker, great. Great Berserker. Not one of my like top favorite Berserkers, but I do feel like he covers the good-heartedness of like Hercules, which I really like as like Herc with Ilya in the original VN or original anime. I feel like Berserkers, when they're done right, they make you care about them a lot, and I feel like Samson was one of those Berserkers. I ended up really caring about Samson a lot, so when he had to perish, it fucking sucked. Like, it was one of the sadder deaths for me. Um, Assassin was kind of mid for me, to be honest, but I didn't do his route, so same with Caster. Like, I can't really talk about them because I didn't really do their route. Rogue Saber was awesome too. Seeing like the husband of what's her name? The Archer of Inferno from FGO. I don't remember her name right now. But seeing him in a game, and also he was a Giga Chad too, was awesome. And then main rider being evil Raiko, that was a really really cool twist that I really enjoyed. Absolutely, Raiko is one of my favorite servants, so seeing her in like an evil position was awesome. Seeing her basically summon fucking Googliana. That thing basically was fucking Googliana. I don't know if that was, I don't remember what it was called in that game, but it was Bowl of Heaven, just fucking trying to nuke Japan. Was awesome. And then Jalter. I feel like Jalter, unfortunately, was kind of put to the wayside a bunch in this game. Like, there's some servants where they kind of put to the wayside. Basically, mainly most of the rogue servants, like Ku. I think Ku and Lee were kind of put to the side pretty heavily in this game. So, unfortunately, yeah, they were put to the side quite a lot. I'm having a brain fart. Who was I talking about? Who the fuck was I talking? Oh, Jalter. Jesus. I just had a mid-conversation brain fart, bro. Lamau. That hasn't happened in a while. But there. But yeah, Jalter was put to the wayside. I still really like Jalter as a character in FGO, but here she was kind of put to the side, and I feel like her story was very tragic. I think all her endings are pretty bad for her, so again, yeah. Now Tamamo Aria. Again, she was put to the wayside, but I think she was funny. Goofy little goober that I enjoyed. So yeah, that's with servants. There's probably some I'm forgetting, sorry, but that's most of the ones I remember. All right, for masters, I actually thought most of the masters in this game were really fucking good. Like Iori, I've already talked extensively on him because he's like the main character. He was a great master. The Quartzian master, again, I'm sorry, I don't really remember her name, but she was also like probably the kindest person in that war. Like I'm glad made it out, at least in my ending. Of course she made it out. She had Musashi protecting her, so she had like one of the strongest servants protecting her. But yeah, she was a really, really, really good master. That was very kind. Had a lot of good character development. Unfortunately, she kind of got put to the side pretty heavily. The Emperor, like Chinese general guy, he was a really fucking awesome bro to be around. Like in terms of bros, he's my favorite, my master bro. I loved being around him. He was really positive to be around. So he was pretty cool. Yui, again, I didn't really get to explore most of her character, but for me, she felt fine. And then you kind of get to the Kirei of the game. Unfortunately, I wasn't very impressed with him. Tsushima Kato. Again, I don't know. he was just kind of meh for me. Like I just kind of thought he was a lamer villain. And then the Burn guy, the guy who survived the Shimabara Rebellion. Um, he was also kind of the same way. I felt like the villain masters were kind of meh for me in this game, which sucks because I think villain masters kind of make or break villains, but I feel like they were fine. They weren't the best though. And then Dorothea, I thought she was interesting, but I didn't get to see everything with her, so unfortunately, she just kind of put to the wayside. I really liked her design though. I thought the designs for all the masters were really good, and the new servants were really good. But yeah, that was a lot of talking about characters in that. I think I talked about the story. Have I talked about the story yet? If I haven't, TLDR, I really enjoyed it. I love the twists and turns, and seeing Iori and Saber character develop. And I do like that there was actually choices that mattered and gave you different endings. There's specifically two from what I remember. Maybe there's something else to get like a different ending I don't know about yet, but at least that's refreshing with the story. And again, I feel like the characters really carried this game for me. Like the story wasn't bad. I really enjoyed the story overall, and I thought it was tightly written, but the character work was absolutely great. Like as you can tell, I just went on a big rave about each of the characters for like probably 10 minutes there. So yeah, I kind of want to move on from story and characters. Unfortunately, like this kind of sucks about this video, so I'm kind of just kind of going past some points because it's just kind of from memory. But also, I kind of like want you guys to experience these games. I will include some spoilers, but again, I want you guys to go play the game and experience it for yourself. That's kind of why I'm not going into in depth. So yeah, music, fucking slapped. Literally not a big surprise. The Type Mood composer worked on this game, and he is a fucking amazing composer. Like FGO's music is absolutely stellar. Like one of the not even like the best mobile game soundtrack I've listened to, but one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. I fucking love Fate Go's soundtrack. And Samurai Remnant continues that. Like I really enjoyed most of the songs in this game. Like really good remixes of songs. Like Cosmic Air, I think this is my second favorite Cosmic Air, which is Gilgamesh's theme. I think my favorite is still Fate Extras. I think that one absolutely slaps. But Cosmic Air in this game was pretty good. And then the themes of like Saber's theme was great. Some of the boss themes and battle themes were great. Yeah, so the music overall was good. So yeah, sorry if I'm moving on from Samurai Remnant with mentioning everything, but Samurai Remnant was a stellar game, bro. Like absolutely, they killed it. All right, moving on next to My Hero Ultra Rumble. Really funny. We go from like from Samurai Remnant to My Hero. Yeah, again, this game kind of came out of nowhere for me. Hold on, let me get a drink. Sorry. We're almost done though. This is the second last game on the list because I'm not including Dragon's Dogma. Because it's going to be like a Tales of Arise situation where I'm going to probably play it mostly next year, and I'll include it in the probably next year me gushing about these games. I want to make this like a full series. But yeah, Ultra Rumble came out of nowhere for me, and I'm not even the biggest fan of My Hero, to be honest. Like I'm caught up to the manga, and I'm reading the final battle right now. And I'm not the biggest fan of it. But man, this game is fucking fun, dude. Like, let's just get into gameplay, man. Like, there's no story, really, or music. It's just gonna kind of be gameplay. But man, this is like the game that kind of took my Battle Royale virginity, I guess. Like, I've played Minecraft, like, survival games and, like, other BRs before this. But, like, this is the one I've really stuck my feed in. I've played. Um, and I gotta tell you, dude, the reason why I find this game so fun is just how each character plays. It's very unique. It's kind of like an anime fighter, I guess I would say. Like each person has like their own special abilities, so that makes each character fresh and fun to play. So like for example, my main Mount Lady has a really interesting gimmick where she can turn giant and basically turn into a raid boss. Like everyone that's fighting each other pretty much turns up to the giant Mount Lady and is immediately trying to attack her because giant Mount Lady is terrifying. She will destroy like multiple teams if she's like maxed out on her ability. Like so that's what makes her fresh. But she's like unique from like say Bakugo, who's a very good DPS that's able to move around very fast and do a lot of damage very quickly. Todoroki has his annoying ice that stun locks people and does a ton of damage to them. Just each character has their own unique gimmick that just keeps making me come back to this game. And is just keeping it fresh. Like, the core character gameplay loop is absolutely stellar in this game. Like, it blew me away. Like, I love playing these characters, and they're so interesting and fun, and yeah, and even like, yeah, that's great. If I want to get into one thing that's kind of mid though, is the gacha system. Like the reason I haven't mentioned the gacha system for Star Rail, is I think that gacha system's pretty good. But the one here is just kind of like a worse version of that, and you can kind of tell like the pity is very atrocious. It's like 2,000 tickets. Now luckily, getting tickets in this game honestly isn't that bad. Like they give you a lot, and you can get a lot of tickets pretty easily. So in terms of gacha currency, like this game is pretty free to play friendly. Like I would say this is the most free to play friendly fucking gacha game I've played. Unfortunately, the gacha system is kind of mid. Same with the old ranking system, but they fixed that, so now the ranking system's a lot better. So yeah. So yeah, that's kind of a complaint I have. So I want to touch upon this because this is also is a main reason why I keep coming to back to this game is I feel like the developers actually genuinely give a shit. Like they are actually trying with this game to make it really good. And honestly, it's sad that like the game is like lost a lot of its player base. I find that depressing because genuinely the developers are listening to every issue we've had with this game and they are fixing it. Like they are absolutely killing it. Now, of course, there's still problems. Like there's still some weird bugs, but like, yeah, and the gacha system needs to be reworked, and some, there's still problems, but they are working on it and they're bringing a new map next season. They brought solos recently, like they are like I'm genuinely impressed with their performance as a Bandai Namco company. And like they even brought like patch notes eventually. Like they listen to us. Like these developers are absolutely listening to us, and it's refreshing. Like they genuinely care what we say, and it's a good thing. It's a good feeling to have our feedback listened to and acted upon by the developers. So yeah, Ultra Rumble I would describe as like I really enjoy it overall because I just find how each character plays and the unique twist on the battle royale genre to be very interesting, and it keeps me coming back. So yeah, very, very, very good game. Absolutely enjoyed Ultra Rumble. So moving on, I guess next I played, because I did a marathon stream, so I took a break, and then I guess I came back to Star Rail, and then Dragon's Dogma, but we're not covering Dragon's Dogma this stream, we're covering that next year. So on to, I guess, the last game, really, of this year that I played, Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to play it that much because I kind of got busy with my projects. So I was busy with the last project, which I'm finished now with, and I uploaded it yesterday. This one will probably be done by the later today because I don't plan on really editing it much. I kind of wanted this to be more raw, like a podcast. Like if you guys want to listen to this kind of while you're doing stuff. Um, yeah. So this will be up later today. But unfortunately, I didn't get to experience Granblue that much. But I was really pumped for it, and I gotta say, from the little bit I've played of Granblue, this feels like the fighting game for me. Like this feels like the one I want to spend the most time into. Like the inputs aren't that hard. They're easy inputs, which I know some people are like, "Oh, you're a little bitch if you don't do the motion inputs." But it's like, dude, I have really bad carpal tunnel. I don't want to fucking ruin my hands playing a goddamn game. Like, just give me easy inputs to have a good time, all right? So yeah, for gameplay, I really enjoy the weird brave system they have. I love the brave counters. It's kind of like Street Fighter 6's like drive system. It's a really interesting system that brings a lot of interesting tools to neutral. Other than just mind games, like you have another thing to worry about. And I think fighting games should keep doing this. So yeah, gameplay for Granblue is very, very solid. Really enjoying my time with it. Music, dude. I can't really cover the story since I haven't played through the story mode yet. Sorry. I'm rushed on time, all right? I want to get this done so I can actually enjoy my holidays. Actually have a good time, on the holidays, chilling. So yeah, yeah, so no story review. But yeah, moving on to music. Dude, honestly, like I thought Street Fighter 6's music was great. This game is fighting game music is amazing. Like genuinely, like some of the best tracks I've heard in any fighting games I've heard from this game. Like this game's music is fucking stellar, dude. They absolutely killed it with this game. I don't think it's on like the level of Tekken's music. Because I think Tekken for me like has the best fighting game music. I fucking love Tekken music, but the music here is insanely good. Like they cooked. And I didn't really want to talk about like how a game looks that much. Because this is kind of like you can kind of notice like I haven't like touched upon graphics or anything like that. These are my opinions and what touched me the most, made me feel great. I kind of want to touch upon in these discussions. Not like graphics or the mundane, because it would all just be like, oh, these games look good. It would all just be the same thing saying that. But I do want to touch upon how the supers look in this game. I think the supers in this game absolutely look stellar, dude. Like they cooked with the supers in this game. The supers in this game are the best looking supers I've seen in any fighting games, like period, I think. They look fucking amazing since DNF Duel, Like these supers look great. Arc System Works knows how to fucking cook with their supers. So yeah, all really, really great things to say about Granblue. Side modes I think are funny. Granblue Bruise is pretty funny. Just to like cool off and play Fall Guys from fighting game, from the stress of like ranked or something is a funny addition. The demo is also really good. The free mode, really great change there. And yeah, I can't wait to play more Granblue. Like seriously, after I'm done with these projects and I get back to streaming sometime later, I absolutely cannot wait to get back to Granblue because the core gameplay loop is absolutely fun. Like I absolutely enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I can't say that much about it because again, like I said, I haven't spent that much time with it right now. This is like I wanted to include this game. I kind of discluded games I didn't spend that much time with, like Texas Chainsaw. But I've spent even less time in this game, but like I wanted to include it just because this is a really anticipated game for me because I was a big fan of DNF Duel, and this is kind of like its successor because unfortunately DNF Duel did not do that well. It is really suffering. So yeah. So just enjoy your time with Granblue. This game is really fun. I can't wait to play more of it. And yeah, let me take a drink. All right, here we are, boys. So we are at where we're gonna crown our game of the year. Originally I was gonna do like a big ranking, like ranking each game against each other, but I just decided not to, and kind of turn this into more of like a discussion because I feel like I don't know. I feel like I just can't give a good ranking to be real on each game. So I'm just gonna kind of crown my game of the year and explain why it's my game of the year. So yeah, I'm not gonna really like give like a top 5 or top 10 of what I enjoyed this year. Just kind of like what my game of the year is. And drum roll, my game of the year is Master Detective Archives Rain Code. Now you're probably looking at me like, what? What are you talking about? There's Zelda this year. There's Resident Evil. There was always just absolutely killer games. Samurai Remnant. All these games. But this game touched me to my very core. Very few games have done this for me. Yakuza 0 did this. Silent Hill 2 has done this to me. Just all of my top games of all time, and emotionally this game was a fucking roller coaster for me. I cried twice. I rarely ever cry on a stream. This game made me cry twice. The reason why this game is my game of the year for me is it just the emotion it brought out in me. It made me like care about all these characters, and when they were in trouble, hell, even when someone died, it hurt. It hurt a lot. Um, Again, I'm gonna and earlier you can kind of tell why. Like I kind of skimmed past Rain Code, because I'm gonna kind of go into more detail here. Why this is my game of the year. So spoiler warning for Master Detective Archive Rain Code. Again, I think you guys should go play this game. The cases were all good, but when Yako in the fourth case, when I lost Yako, dude, that fucking hurt. I haven't cried that hard in a video game in a while. Like, genuinely, like, how the characters reacted, how just the emotional buildup of that moment fucking killed me. Like, absolutely killed me emotionally. And another moment I want to talk about is on case 2. When you have to kill these 3 innocent, like, little girls that killed this person, that fucking hurt. Like, that shit hurt, man. That ruined me, too. And of course, at the end game, the last case is an emotional roller coaster. You thought all your friends die, and then you learn all this. What happened to everybody in the town? They all fucking died and were turned into homunculuses. That big twist blew me away. Like, genuinely, Kodaka absolutely blew me away with this game. Like, he fucking cooked with this game. Being my genuine favorite Kodaka game he has made, which is impressive. Like, he fucking killed it. And let's get into more reason why. The cases were all fucking great. Like, case 1 blew me the fuck away. Like, genuinely. Like, just watching everyone you know up until that point doing the Kodaka twist of them all just dying immediately. He even fooled, like, the marketing team. Like, he showed them all in the marketing heavily, and then they all just die. Just like that. Watching them all die, and then that first case is just so strong. You know, the whole train switching part. you know, getting into their first mystery done like labyrinth. I think as a first case, I think that's the best one he's done. Like I think that's better than like Danganronpa 2 and Danganronpa 1. I think Danganronpa 1 had a really good one too. But like that case absolutely just blew me away. Um the next case, case 2, was kind of a bit more generic. But at least you get to meet like all the characters, main cast, and I enjoyed all of them for the most part, except for stupid ass Desahiko. Screw him, he's like the absolute worst. He's just like a sex pest, basically. Is how I would describe him. He's just actually the worst, but most of the main cast I really enjoyed. Yuma was a great protagonist. Shinigami was a great dual protagonist. I think she can get a bit annoying at some points, like especially case 3, the case with the girl, you know, the school. She gets a little overbearing on that case, and she can get a little, but like when shit is going down later in the story, I feel like she actually steps up and becomes a way better character. Like in case 4, like she steps up again. Yuma steps up, and it's Yuma as a protagonist absolutely carried on the second half. But yeah, Shinigami, like I feel like could be a little overbearing sometimes, but I like didn't hate her. I do feel like that will be what makes or breaks people's opinions of this game, being stuck with Shinigami. Because I do feel like she is kind of like Junko. It's like this crazy horny bitch is how I would describe them. But like I feel like she was just more endearing in this game because she actually genuinely cared about the characters, you know, and I think she had that over Junko. And Halara was awesome. They were fucking badass that absolutely cooked in their case they were in. Um, the Nail Man case, which was a bit generic, but Halara was awesome. Desahiko, I already talked about him. I fucking hate him. He's a sex pest. But at least Desahiko, like when shit was going down, like when shit was serious, like he wasn't an annoying character. Like he wasn't an annoying jokey character. Like I feel like that's what made the characters like overall bearable for me and really good, is like when shit is going down, like they all like took it very seriously, and I feel like that's what made me fall in love with each character individually a lot more. Like Fubuki, it was kind of an airhead, but I ended up really liking her on her case. Um, and then fucking Vivia, dude. We gotta talk about my husbando, Vivia, bro. He was absolutely my husbando of that game. Absolutely beautiful man. Beautiful boy, Vivia is. Love, I just loved his goofball nature. And he ended up being a very interesting character when it came to his case. Like, he genuinely cared about everybody, probably the most, probably as much as Yuma. Like, he literally put his life on the line to protect Yako on his case. One of the better moments of the game was his character development. Like, I think out of the side characters, Vivia is the most interesting. Yako, I forgot to mention him, but Yako, as a leader, really, really cool character. Again, he's basically the Reagan Arataka of the game, as I would describe his character. I love that character archetype where they're like a mentor figure that does give some good wisdom, but like they're still in over their heads. So they're kind of memey. Like he's got to freeze out sometimes, and he he was just a very funny guy, and that's what made his death all the more hard for me, because he genuinely brought me some of the most laughs in the game. And when he was killed off in case 4, it fucking hurt really bad. So yeah, Yako, really great character. Honestly, main cast except for Desahiko was really good. Even like what's her name? Kurumi, I think's her name. Yeah, even like the main heroine, I guess. There's like a love triangle between her, Shinigami, and Yuma. I thought she was fine. Um, yeah, that's kind of the character work and the villains. Okay, this is where we can get in kind of some mid territory. I do think like the like evil company guys, except for the main villain of the game, which we'll get to him because we're talking about characters right now. We'll get to him here in a minute. Um, we're all kind of shit. The only one that was interesting was kind of the red hair guy, but even then he was just kind of like a mustache twirling villain. But all of them were kind of mustache cartoon villains. But I feel like that made it more endearing, right? Um, so yeah, they were all kind of mid, except for the main villain. So now we're gonna talk about Yuma. Yuma and his Shadow Yuma, I guess I would call him. That's kind of like the twist of the game. It's kind of like Persona 4, where it's like a shadow version. Yuma blew me away as a protagonist. Yuma, like, had some of the best character development, I think, out of any Danganronpa or like Kodaka protagonist. I do think that Hajime is still my favorite Kodaka protagonist. But Yuma's fucking close, man. Like, I don't know, man. I really loved Yuma's development. Like how he just kind of he goes through these cases, dealing with the guilt because he kills the culprit in every case, every single one. He ends up taking their life. That building on his back, that stress, making him a great protagonist, like the fake protagonist, for example. They're gray. They're not good or bad. They're gray. Made him way more interesting of a protagonist, and how he just matures and becomes a way better detective. And then going on to Makoto, his shadow self, which the big twist of the game, that's honestly a really cool twist, is basically they've taken the DNA of all the characters, or at least most of the characters, like, and made copies of them into homunculuses to make them immortal, as like an experiment. So he's like the homunculus version of Yuma, who is revealed to be the number one detective at the end of the game. Again, another fucking awesome twist. But even he was a very tragic villain because he sacrificed. Like, you kind of went in like being like, "Oh, this is a generic evil corporation," but you learn he has done all this fucked up shit to save every single person in that city. He wanted to save them all. Like, he has basically done all this fucked up shit, killed all these people, just to protect who he cares about, and that's the city, the residents of the city. And I thought that was such a beautiful and fucked up twist. Like, it was beautifully tragic. Like, of him basically becoming a genocidal maniac, killing most of like a bunch of humans that are trying to come to that city just to protect the homunculuses. And because what happened was out of his control. Like, everyone got killed and turned into a homunculus, and he's basically sacrificed everything to protect them. I thought that was absolutely like one of the strongest villains I've seen this year. Like, holy shit, like that fucking wow. Like, damn, dude. Fucking wow. So yeah, TLDR, fucking characters are great. But anyways, let's get back to the cases. I kind of went on a tangent there about characters, but that's kind of important. One of the main reasons why I really enjoyed this game was the characters and their character development. And then here's the other reason. The cases, all really fucking great. Like, even the generic ones weren't like horrendous. Like, they weren't bad. Case 1 was amazing with the train. Case 2 with the nail man was kind of generic, but even then, like, the reveal of like, oh, you're killing the culprit, like this is really where it steps in, and the sins are weighing on your back, um, is absolutely great. And I still really enjoyed the murder cast, um, or the murder cast, the side cast, that like the case characters in that case. And I enjoyed the mystery labyrinth and the whole like fucked up urban legend of the nail man, and just absolutely like being a cool like gothic horror legend. And yeah, absolutely cooked. Now case 3 is interesting because I went into it not really enjoying it, but as the case went on, so this is the school case, by the way. As the case went on, I enjoyed it more. Like, absolutely enjoyed it a lot more. Like, in the final twist with the girls basically getting revenge for their friend that was killed, and then you taking their lives, fucking impacted me so hard. Like, before that case is kind of mid, but like the mystery labyrinth and that resolution, like, make this case so much better. Like, now I think it's better than the nail man and the freaking next case, the terrorist case, just because of the end twist. Like, holy shit. Like, that hurt, man. Absolutely amazing. Like, an amazing case in the end. All right, and then case 4, which is, this is kind of like the terrorist case. You're framed as a terrorist. The basically what's the name of the group? The rebellion group that's like going against the big company. Unfortunately, they kind of had, in my opinion, like the weakest like overall cast. Um, like I think case 2 and 3 had a better like side cast basically for the case. But you do get to meet Makoto in this game, or in this case, and he's really interesting from the start, from the get-go. And yeah, absolutely didn't care about the villain. He was just kind of whatever, fucking dumbass. But the part that made it interesting was like the whole like case part where you're framed as a terrorist. I thought that was the most interesting part of the case. Where you basically figure out how these guys framed you for terrorism and what their plan was. Which, by the way, his end plan was stupid, where he wanted to fucking flood a bank and steal money. Like, whatever. Like, I feel like that was kind of like one of the worst twists in the game. But yeah, I enjoyed the investigation part and how intense it was. Amphibious time powers. Although still, the bomb minigames can go die in a ditch. I hated that minigame so much. And I still stand by that opinion. I freaking hate that minigame. And yeah, this case also improved my opinion on Fubuki quite a lot, but I've already kind of mentioned that. So yeah, overall, she kind of holds up this case too. And on to case 4. Or case 5. The second to last case. Oh man. I genuinely think this is one of the best written Kodaka cases. Like, this and the next case are fucking amazing. Like, it's like, I love it so much. Just finally getting to the end game of like seeing how this company works, going in there, infiltrating, all your friends showing up to help you and get in danger, and even one of them die because of it, made this case have so much gravitas to it that I haven't felt in a detective case in a while. But yeah, the actual case is interesting too, because basically it was Yaku getting revenge on a guy that killed his, like, I think, was it his wife or girlfriend? I think it was his wife. I think it was his wife. So that whole twist was really fucking good on this case. And you having to put down one of your friends in the end. I mean, he was already kind of dying from the stab wound, which added intensity to this case. But like, having to see your friend off in the Mystery Labyrinth made me lose my just emotional marbles. Like I have not teared up and cried that long in a stream in a while. Like genuinely that hurt. And that's why this case for me is, in my opinion, the best case of the game. I like, and Vivia's character in defending Yako and stepping up as like someone who actually cares about his friends. Even though he acts as like a slacker throughout the entire game. Like when he cooks, he cooks. Like he fights you as a character. And I thought that boss battle against him was great. And finding out, Yako was the culprit absolutely killed me. Absolutely great case. Like I can gush about this case forever. Um, yeah, okay. Yeah. I do think the problem though with that case though, it's like the doctor was kind of an idiot as a villain. I didn't really enjoy him as much, but like when you learn that he had fucking turned everyone into zombies, like that shit was crazy. Um, and then Fink the Slaughter guy just kind of showed up and killed Yako. That's about it. So he wasn't really that interesting. But like this case focused more on the main cast, which I think also made this case the best in my opinion. Was really like because you spent time with each of these characters basically. The only one you haven't really spent time with yet is Vivia, but this is his case. Like he steps up in this case, but seeing everyone come together in this case and just basically all work together made it for me. Um, yeah, great case. I can probably talk about this case for like an hour or two in depth. Like I absolutely love this case. On to the final case of the game. Um, really, really, really good too. I think this is like either my second or third favorite. I think either the first case, the train case, beats this out, but I think this slightly beats out the train case for me. Because like this case is really interesting. This is sort of where you get all the really amazing twists of the game, like the homunculus twist, fully explained. Because everything at this point you've kind of been breastfed, information on. But what makes this case super interesting to me is just seeing all of all of the people you killed reanimated as a zombie coming after you. Like you see the priest come back as a zombie and try to kill you. You see the girls you killed come back and try to kill you. All these characters that died throughout the game coming back and just reminded me of the people you've killed. Just weighing on the sins, just weighing on your back was great, dude. Like, absolutely great. I do think, unfortunately, like the weakest part of this case was the investigation. Because they just kind of had to do like a bunch of explaining like the big twists of the game, which I've already talked about. Like the whole homunculus twist, how everyone died and was swapped, how Makoto basically fucking sacrificed his moral will to save that entire city for years to keep them alive in the rain. Like, yeah, that part's really good. But like the investigation, they kind of just like they basically spoon feed you the answers. But at least the gauntlet's kind of interesting. Like you see a bunch of the zombies like try and kill you. Like that's interesting. And there's a lot of quick time events. And it's actually kind of dark. If you get a bad ending, like mess up a quick time event, you actually hear the protagonist and the main female, or like Kurumi, just get eaten. Like it's fucked. Like it's actually kind of like this part of the game like really tried to lend into the horror part. And that I really enjoyed. Like this case was really good. And just the whole big reveal of the game, which I've already talked about extensively, absolutely sold this case for me. And this case was great. And just Yuma's character coming to fruition here, learning that he's number one. Shinigami stepping up and saving Yuma at his lowest was great. This case was great. I think that's why, and just like the whole big twist, that's just what makes this my second favorite case. But I think case 4 is my favorite just because it's more like focused on the main cast. And yeah, then there's the epilogue, which is pretty good, I would say. Yuma disappears and Kurumi goes after him. So yeah, I haven't played the DLC cases yet. I'll buy them eventually and play through them, or just watch someone play through them. But yeah, like there's still so much about this game I haven't mentioned that I really like. I love the setting, the city, the neon aesthetic. I'm a sucker for that like cyberpunk neon aesthetic. You know, kind of like Cyberpunk 2077 or like I don't know, like Ghost in the Shell, stuff like that, you know, the whole futuristic dark looking city. Like there's just so much I could gush about this game. And I just want to finish this off by saying why this is my game of the year again. Just this game, I feel like above every other game for me, touched me as an individual in my soul the most. I feel like seeing the human struggle and seeing humanity's perseverance in this game and acceptance of these homunculuses and just the human will just touched me just more than pretty much any game. And I just love the twist. I love the characters. I love the music. I just love everything about this game. Yeah, apparently I have a bunch of text. Sorry, I'm in the middle of recording that. I'll check on that after. But yeah, Rain Code is my game of the year. Um, which is pretty tough because there's a lot of good games. Like this year absolutely killed it with gaming, and I just want to finish off by saying thank you guys for if you've listened to this whole thing, thank you for sitting through like around 3 hours like of me just discussing these games. I mean it a lot. You guys have this year has been amazing. Like it absolutely has. I've loved every second of this year. I've loved streaming all these games, and I can't wait for the next year. I genuinely can't. Um, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you guys. Um, this has been Nurp. I'm signing out, guys. Bye bye. See you guys next year.